The main character who is being dragged screams for the maids to let her go right now, but they only throw the girl on the floor. The main character also screams that she is a duchess and wonders how they dared to do something like that. She also asks where the Duke is because she wants to see him. But at that very moment, someone comes out from behind the door and then turns to the dear one and claims that this girl said that she is a duchess. But then this woman asks who she is. Heidi says that she still has his child in her belly. The main character asks Eller what this woman is talking about because she is not his wife, so how could he... However, the Duke then asks if she is talking about his wife, and he only married her because the girl is a princess, but now she is just a toy that he plays with. He also expected the girl to bring him fame, but she brought only failure there, and also destroyed his family. The main character then points to the lady with red hair, but yes, only hides behind the Duke, and also screams Ellet at the same moment, screams what the girl wanted to do. After all, she can't have her own children, and does she really want him to go into eternal sleep with her? But to allow the Duke's family to end because of her and lose his title is already too much to poor Happy. The guy also remembers how he saw in the medical record that the girl had no chance of getting pregnant. Well, the main character is now screaming that no, and she is not happy, and also how he irritates her. Eller then screams that the royal family knew that the girl brought misfortune, and that is why they sent her to the Duke's mansion. Well, does she really want him to be destroyed by her hands, after which he invites the insignificant catastrophe to say something? The lady with red hair at this time turns to the Duke and tells him not to be nervous, because when he marries her, Lance's family will be his greatest help. Well, the girl then claims that this is wrong, and the Father King will not allow this, and also he cannot do this. After this, the guy tells the girl not to be so naive, because even if she falls into eternal sleep, they will not shed a tear. Instead, they will celebrate because the daughter of fate has finally disappeared with her curse. After which he also says that this is true and asks why he doesn't do it for them. The main character then screams at him not to do this to her and starts running away. The lady with the red hair screams at the Duke not to let her escape so that she cannot complain about them. After which the guy grabs a stick and hits the girl on the head. The Duke's mistress then screams and says that there is so much red liquid there. She also asks if the girl can still complain about them, to which the man replies no. Then he turns to Heidi and tells her to close her eyes first, otherwise she will feel sick. After which the man swings and hits the girl. The lady then slowly closes her eyes and wonders if this is what should have happened a long time ago. At this time, the Duke turns to his dear and suggests that they go quickly to the Duke's mansion because they are getting married right now. And the main character thinks about what she did to deserve this, and she doesn't want to fall into eternal sleep like this. The girl also recalls how one of the maids said that it was a pity that they were sent to serve this lady. Another replied that she herself was like bad luck, and what if she passed on the bad luck to them, to which her colleague replied that it would be very bad. The main character realizes that she has never received love in her life, and even ordinary maids hate her. But even in such cases, the lady desperately wanted to live, and now the lady hears someone talking to her, and also claims that he can give her a chance to be reborn, but there is a condition. The girl then turns around, and will she be able to be reborn? Her interlocutor replies that it was her negligence that caused Amanda and the Book of Prophecy to disappear, breaking their original order, making her the biggest variable in this world, bringing death to the daughter of fate. The main character realizes that Amanda is her mother's name and screams out what she must do to get a chance to be reborn. This voice answers that the goddesses may be involved in the changes that were destined, so only she can find the answer. And if the lady can successfully obtain the Book of Prophecies and return the gears of fate directed in the right direction, then she will be able to find a new life and get rid of the fate that was her previous life. If the lady fails, she will go to reincarnation immediately without an afterlife. After which the young lady claims that she understood and cries out that she will fulfill the conditions, therefore they ask to give her a new life. This voice asks if the girl has really decided everything, because if she fails, she will have to pay a huge price. The main character screams that she has not resigned herself to falling into eternal sleep just like that, and she wants to get rid of her unhappy fate. To which this voice replies that this is good, and let the depot remember what she promised, and not forget about her mission. After which the main character looks in the mirror and thinks, has she really been reborn, and is this her face as a child? The girl pinches her cheek and screams that it hurts. So this is not a dream. and she really has returned. The lady also remembered the year she ended up in and says that she was almost put into eternal sleep by the high temperature in this abandoned palace, and Bella desperately saved her. After which the main character screams to Bella, but when she turns around she sees no one. The girl also understands that in her past life only Bella sincerely cared for her. Well, after she was plunged into eternal sleep, the other maids mocked her even more demonstratively, and in order to escape from there, she hastily agreed to get married, after which the girl tells Bella to wait for her. As she walks down the corridor, she wonders where the maid is. And hasn't she been reborn and now can't change the direction of her destiny? At this time, she hears near one of the doors how someone screams to hold her and let the girl scream or not scream, but no one will come to her aid. So let her shut up. The main character understands that Bella is there. At this time, the maid screams that if something happens to the princess, His Majesty will not forgive them. Well then, one of the maids claims that for someone as unlucky as she is, it would be strange if His Majesty did not want her to quickly fall into eternal sleep. Yes, and besides, everyone knows that the girl is the princess's personal maid, and it is obvious that she hid her condition and also refused to treat her, which is why she fell into eternal sleep. When she is no longer alive, the maid will fall into the pond and fall into eternal sleep, because she was afraid that His Majesty would hold the guilty responsible, and they are simple maids and cannot know anything. After which she asks what her immersion into eternal sleep has to do with them. All the main character knew was that Bella had broken the ban in her previous life and left the palace privately to seek medical help, and the next day she saw her being carried out and learned what had happened. Bella then screams that they won't succeed, but the other maid claims that in any case the girl won't see it because her mistress will soon fall into eternal sleep so she can go after her. At that very moment, the main character bursts into their room and screams for them to wait. Bella asks if this is really a princess, and the main character approaches the maids and asks what they were just talking about. But the maid asks if the lady hasn't heard everything now, but who would believe her crazy words? Another maid claims that with her luck and abilities, there is no need to bother to blame a simple maid. The main character at the same moment snatches the pendant from the maid's neck and so asks what the girl is doing. The young lady replies that the pendant belongs to Audie's sister and wonders if the maid was planning to shift all the blame onto Bella by stealing it. The maid then screams what nonsense the girl is talking and let her go, but the main character wonders where she got this thing if not by stealing it. The maid then asks what if she stole it, after which the young lady asks to be allowed to ask again. What did they want to do with Bella? The other maid replies that she is fine and does the girl still think about the injustice towards her. But the main character at that very moment yanks the pendant and tears it off the maid's neck, after which she screams, calling the girl names. However, her colleague tells the girl to wait because there shouldn't be any damage to the princess. The main character then screams that if an accident happens to Bella, she will tell her father that it was that maid who stole Audie's sister's thing, and also hide it so that none of them can find it. The main character realizes that this body is still baby, and if they push her too hard, they could put her into eternal sleep right now. After which the young lady screams that if they start to intimidate her again, then this evidence will end up with her father, and asks if they understood. The maids answer that yes, and one of them claims that if the princess can keep this secret, she promises that they will not dare to do such a thing again. The girl asks if this is true, to which the maid replies that of course it is true, and the main character says that, then okay. Then the maid unties Bella and tells the princess to return to the room. The main character then turns around and looks at the candle as well as the ropes with which Bella was tied, after which he says that it is good. Then the girl and the maid leave the room, but they just smirk and then close the door. A little while later, these girls gather at the table. One of them comes into the room and asks what they are discussing, and they are not afraid that this girl will hear them again. Well then, one of the maids asks what the difference is, after which the brunette asks if she still needs a doctor. Her colleague replies that judging by the fact that this girl is still alive, she definitely doesn't need a doctor. But then the lady with green hair asks what if they find out about her because she is a princess after all. Then one of them claims that the lady is still alive and therefore everything is fine with her, but wonders if she is too soft-hearted towards her colleagues. The black-haired maid says that her interlocutor is right because they can't leave everything like this, and also tells her to move closer. The girl whispers to her colleague that no matter what she says, they won't believe her, but the pendant is bad, so she suggests a plan. When they finish discussing, the lady with black hair states that they will do something, but let the lady with green hair not think of telling anyone about this, and in any case it will not be difficult to put her into eternal sleep, and Bella shouldn't disturb them. Another maid tells the girl to go and watch them so they don't escape. The lady with green hair then starts to object, but her interlocutor then slams her hand on the table and tells the girl not to let her go. And she warned her just in case, after which the maid leaves and says that for now she needs to get ready. The main character is in her room at this time, and then one of the maids turns to the princess, and she claims that she needs to run because they won't give up so easily. Well, the main thing is that the heroine is wondering where she's going. Bella replies that His Majesty will be glad to see her. The main character claims that he will not, and thinks that they were right, because who would believe what the disgraced princess said? The maid wants to object after this, but the main character says that it's okay. After all, she has already thought of everything, and when she goes to the doctor tomorrow, she will ask him to pass this on to Audie's sister. Bella then calms down and tells the princess that she still has a fever, so she should go to bed earlier. The princess then nods, and the maid wishes her goodnight and hopes that she will have a good dream. The main character also wishes her goodnight, but then thinks, what if everything is completely different? And this item is a gift from the princess, but then the accusations of theft do not matter. A little while later, one of the maids claims that the doctor has arrived and is wondering when the princess will be able to go. The girl replies that right then and there the maid extends her hand and invites her to go. But then Bella stands in front of the princess and says that she will go with her to the doctor. After which the brunette hands over permission and asks Bella if she can. Bella asks the princess to let her go with her, and the brunette then asks if the girl really wants to accompany the princess to the doctor, or plans to take the opportunity to file a complaint. Bella is going to respond that this is not the case. However, another maid tells her to stay there for a few years and return as a princess as soon as the doctor examines her. The main character also tells Bella that it's okay, and she'll be back soon, and let the maid be a picketer and waiter. Then another maid grabs the lady by the hand and tells her to go, otherwise the doctor will soon leave the palace. Bella is about to say something else, but another maid stops her and tells her not to worry because the girl will be back soon. The main character, heading along with the maid, thinks that this country is interested in whether it is necessary to go to the doctor in this direction, to which the maid replies that they are almost there. The princess then thinks, okay, and when they approach the building, then the girl sees that it is in a very bad condition. The maid at this time lets go of the young lady's hand and tells her to wait for her. She will be back soon. The princess asks where she is going, and whether she will really leave her there, to which the maid replies that of course not, and suggests that the mistress let go of her dress. The main character realizes that she doesn't care, after which she lets go, and also says that she hopes she will return soon. The maid replies that of course, and then leaves. The princess understands that everything worked out as in her past life, and she is there again. At this time, the lady hears someone asking if his colleague heard anything. Well, the other guy answers that it was a mouse because there is no one else there. Then again, someone looks around and asks if there could be mice in the palace, to which he replies that he sees there could be. At this time, the main character hides behind the door and says that it was dangerous. Well, when she turns around, she realizes that this is the place where she once lived. The girl also looks at the teddy bear and remembers how someone asked why the princess was sitting there. The maid suggested that she go to her room and play like that, but the little girl replied that if she didn't answer, she would have to wait until her mother returned. After which she suggests that the bear go find his mother. In this palace, there is a room that only she, her mother, and Karina can enter. The princess faintly feels that someone is guiding her and that someone is there. At the same moment, someone grabs the girl and asks who she is and why she is there. The main character understands that he has an accent and is not from Arthur's kingdom, and also smells of red liquid. The guy then examines the girl in old clothes, in front of whom lies an old toy. But the princess only asks her brother why he is there. The guy only asks if she is there alone. To which the girl replies that yes, but claims that her father said that he would come for her during lunch, and that he cooks deliciously. The young man then asks if he is a cook in the palace, to which she replies that he is, and the guy then asks why he left her there. The blonde replies that she doesn't know, because her dad told her to be obedient to hide there and wait for him so that no one would find her. But since my brother found her now, it's his turn to hide. The guy understands that it seems that this little girl is the cook's daughter who has sneaked into the palace, and her presence there cannot pose any threat to him. The guy then suggests that they stop playing hide-and-seek and go explore the place together. He will share his candy with her, and now she may not take him to play. The main character understands that it is too dangerous for her to be alone with him, and therefore she needs to find a way to distract his attention, after which he says that they will go together to look for the Philosopher's Stone. The guy asks if she knows where this magic stone is, to which the girl replies that it says that the Philosopher's Stone is hidden inside and there are countless gold coins. Her interlocutor asks if that is all, to which the girl replies that yes, but this room is always locked. The young man then asks what they should do, and the lady replies that in the past it was said that the elder brother is a wizard and should definitely know how to open the door to the secret room. The main character thinks that although she is a little ashamed, maybe he really can help her open the door. A little while later, the guy already makes a key and opens the door with it. He also asks if he is a good man and opens the door for the lady. And the girl realizes that he really used her as a tracker. The young man at this time claims that she said that somewhere there is a philosopher's stone, and the main character picks up some kind of watch and then remembers someone. Then she looks at the guy and asks what is wrong, and he replies that it is nothing, and he is simply curious why there are so many empty books. The young man also asks what time it is, to which the lady replies that she does not know because the clock is broken. The guy claims that he thought so and asks if she is hungry since it is almost lunchtime. The girl then puts the teddy bear on a chair and suggests going to lunch. The guy then agrees but wonders if she won't take her teddy bear. The princess replies that he said he would guard the treasure for her because she will pick him up tomorrow. The young man says that it is fine and let it be so, after which they go out. The guy asks if they can just go outside, to which the lady replies that yes, it is the back door and no one goes past it, but she needs to wait until the father will take her. The girl also understands that if someone comes, she will not be able to go with him. And the guy asks where exactly her father is because he can find him and give him something. The girl replies that there is a path near the back door, and only if they follow it will they meet a man, and it must be her father. After which the two say goodbye, and the guy wishes her luck, but when he leaves, someone shouts at him to wait. The main character only smiles at this, and also thanks him for trusting her because she is grateful to him. After which, the girl runs up to the chest of drawers and pushes it aside and then crawls through the hole that was behind it. Well, when the girl gets outside, she sees someone's boots, and when she raises her head, she sees some man. She also understands that it's all over because they found her. One of the servants at this time asks who she is and why she is there. He tells the girl to bow because His Majesty the King is standing before her, but at that very moment the watch falls out of the girl's hands, after which she immediately goes after it. Well, then someone grabs the lady by the hand and doesn't let her pick up the watch. It turns out to be His Majesty. He takes the watch from the lady's hands, and when he opens it, he sees someone's portrait, after which he approaches the lady, and he asks if she is Amanda's daughter. The main character then realizes that he said it as if she was a stranger, after which she answers her father that yes, and claims that Anastasia greets him. The girl also understands that everything is right because he is her father, and also the 11th king of Arthur's kingdom. Having married her off and hidden in their ducal mansion, he is the man who made her life hell. The man then turns to Anastasia and lets her go, and also asks if she is afraid of him. The girl replies that he is her father and she should not be afraid of him. The lady also understands that a person who has already fallen into eternal sleep once has nothing to fear. But the man again squeezes the girl's neck and screams why she is there and also what she was doing there. Anastasia understands that her air is blocked and she cannot breathe, after which she thinks, does he really want to put her into eternal sleep? But she was just reborn, so how can he take her life again? The girl also tells her father that she just wanted to come and see him secretly. Well, the man tells her to leave right now and never come back there again, after which he turns around and leaves. Well then, the girl tells him to wait and give her back the watch, after which he throws it on the floor. Well, the other guy picks it up and hands it to the lady and says that His Royal Highness told him to return this watch to the lady. He has exactly the same watch, and the girl will be able to take it by going to the Palace of Kronos. The main character then takes the watch and bows and then runs away. But a little while later, someone throws a candy to the lady and also says that they will meet again. The girl then turns to him. The guy at this time shows the lady to be quiet and says that it seems the princess really wants to put him into eternal sleep. After this, Anastasia asks what he wants to do and wonders if he was eavesdropping on them. And the lady wonders how he got rid of the guards so easily. The guy at this time says that he did not steal anything. And he didn't take anything that belonged to anyone else, he just got lost. Anastasia understands that if he gets caught, he can tell his father that she came there specifically to find something, so it's better to help him. The lady then says okay and also points him in one direction and says that if he goes there, he will see a flower field at the end of which there is a wall. If he can climb the wall, then he can go straight down, but he needs to look carefully because there are a lot of dog holes there. However, when the lady sees him laughing, she screams at him not to do that, but the young man claims that she lied to him last time. The girl then promises that she did not lie to him this time, and if he does not believe her, then she can go with him. After which, the young man extends his hand and says okay and suggests going. A little while later, she already tells the guy to go straight from this place to get there. The guy understands that if they are late, the guards can find him, but looking at King Arthur's attitude towards her, it seems she can easily be taken hostage. After which, he also tells the lady that it is then time to say goodbye and she should return home early. The young man also hands her a bracelet and tells the lady to take it as a thank you gift for helping her. Now, maybe they will see each other again in the future. The main character takes the bracelet but claims that she does not think they will meet again. But the guy says that he is sure that this is not their last meeting and then leaves. The maids are rummaging through the decorations at this time, and when one of them returns, the lady with green hair asks, "Lydia, is it done?" The lady with black hair replies that she put what they stole under Bella's pillow, and as soon as the princess falls into eternal sleep, they will immediately send her after her. One of the maids says that it is well done, and the other asks if she has found the pendant. Then her interlocutor replies that they have not found it, but that these jewels are quite enough to make up for her loss. She also tells the other maids not to worry because they will get their share too. The brunette, having received the jewelry, asks if that is all, but the other maid says that if it is not enough for her, the girl can steal it herself. But she still thinks that this will be enough because thanks to this, they will be able to leave this place and live without denying themselves anything. And all thanks to Princess Ottilia because she gave them so much. The other maid replies that this is true, but then the lady with green hair asks if the princess is really not coming back, to which she asks if they still call her a princess. One of them claims that she saw with her own eyes that Her Majesty and His Royal Highness went in that direction, so she will definitely never escape. Leaving the palace without permission and illegally entering a forbidden place is a criminal offense, but the lady with green hair says that suddenly everything will go wrong. And after that, one of the maids claims that for now no one will do anything to them, even if the girl can safely return, because there is no evidence to take away that they took her jewelry, and if an inspection comes to the palace, then only the jewelry hidden in Bella's room will be found. The main character at this time watches all this, after which she sees how the maid with dark hair turns around. The girl understands that she clearly surprised her, but why didn't she tell her about her, and what does this girl want to do? Instead of looking for an advantage and telling that she saw her, the girl is silent and the main character thinks why she is doing this. At this time, someone asks the maid who is behind the door, and the main character pushes it, and also understands that he simply cannot miss this show. One of the maids screams how the girl got there and orders that she be caught immediately. The girl then says that her brother the prince will soon come to her and asks what she plans to do. Well then, one of the maids grabs her by the hand and screams for the others not to listen to this nonsense and to close the doors. The main character takes out the watch and claims that her brother gave it to her, and how could His Highness's broken pocket watch have come into her hands in any other way? The lady with green hair then asks what if His Royal Highness really wants to come. After this, the brunette turns to her colleague and says that she is afraid that she won't be able to escape from there alone. To which she replies that no, and the girl asks if she really wanted to run away without them. The main character understands that they are about to fight, after which one of the maids attacks the other and screams that she was screaming so loudly about all this, so why is she scared now? The lady with green hair replies that it is not true, and it is not so, and the main character looks at the maid with black stripes, after which she tells the other that they cannot do this at the present time. However, then the woman screams that if she tells anyone or runs away alone, she will not live. Then she turns to the princess, and the maid with black hair covers her, and she claims that she has a solution, after which they whisper about something, and the main character understands that it seems that her goal is not to plunge her into eternal sleep, and then the girl thinks that she will look at what she wants to do. Then one of the maids asks if it might work and rarely offers to let her try. After which the other maids leave, and the brunette turns to the princess and asks if they can talk. At this time, someone knocks on His Majesty's door and he tells the servant to come in. The butler claims that he found out everything and that His Royal Highness appeared there because a maid in the palace went to ask the doctor for help for the princess. His Majesty wonders if she went alone and why he doesn't know that their relationship is so good, because the mountain knight in a small area just went and asked for help for the princess. The butler claims that he is not sure whether the maid's words were true or not, so he wants to see it for himself and report the situation to His Majesty. The blonde claims that Adelaide didn't say anything and asks what the maid's name is, to which he replies that her name seems to be Bella, after which the blonde tells the guy to find out where the prince is headed. And the main character at this time asks the maid what else can be talked about and what she did with Bella. The brunette replies that there is enough evidence in such a room to make her disappear from the palace, but she thinks that this maid may still be useful to the lady. The main character then asks what the girl wants and whether it is money, but she replies that on the contrary, it is not something she can want, and she did not even think about it. The brunette also claims that she is just looking for a place to stay, and the young lady is interested. What if she can't fit her there? To which the maid replies that then she can only wish the princess good luck. After all, by setting up Bella, they hope to simply escape. Anastasia asks after that, doesn't she think that it's too late to start repenting now? The girl also understands that she will not forget those who plunged Bella into eternal sleep in the past. The maid then crouches down and asks if she has done the lady any significant harm, and she does not defend herself because she will end up worse than Bella when they find out about everything. After all, the princess refused to give her a chance to change, so she had no other choice. The main character thinks that this girl has good eloquence, and if she is only an 8-year-old child, then she can be easily deceived and fooled. After which she says that in that case, maybe it's worth showing sincerity first. The maid claims that these are jewels that should be hidden in Bella's room. And the main character asks if they are all there, to which she replies that she is not sure. After all, she always leaves herself a way out after finishing the job and promises that she will not have anything left that belongs to the princess. Anastasia then asks if they should leave this palace, to which she replies that yes, but they need to be caught red-handed. At this point, one of the maids bursts into the room and screams whether they have talked because she has waited long enough. The brunette then says that the princess has already agreed to her request, and the main character wonders if the maid will intimidate her anymore. But the woman claims that then she should quickly leave there, after which the main character grabs her hand. But he says that unfortunately, their deal is invalid because time is almost up. The woman then wonders what kind of nonsense the girl is talking about, and whether she is still suffering from a fever. Green-haired lady addresses the princess, but the other maid screams that she is an idiot, and he wonders what else they want to explain to this girl. After which she turns to the main character and screams at her. Well, Anastasia claims that the evidence is there, and they are wondering if that is why the girl is afraid to hit her. But the maid then screams, is she really afraid, and swings her arm. However, at that very moment, someone tells her to stop. The woman who enters the room screams out what is going on there and what the girl wants to do. The main character then sighs and realizes that fortunately for GN is numbers. At this time, one of the maids addresses her, but the woman only looks at the jewels on the table as well as at the princess. She also asks if the princess is okay, but the girl starts crying after that. JN asks the lady if she will tell what happened there. Well, then one of the maids points at another and screams that it was she who locked the girl in. The brunette replies that everything is correct and she has the key, and the main character wonders if she has become a scapegoat and will now be punished. The woman then takes one of the decorations and asks if the girl will tell her what she wanted to do with the princess. But the maid then asks the miss why she is there. And after all, everything she sees is not at all what she thinks, so let her listen to the explanations. However, the woman claims that the evidence speaks for itself and asks what else the girl wants to explain. After which she turns to Her Highness and asks if they were trying to steal her jewelry, to which the girl replies that they did. But he claims that this is not all because she also beat her start talking after this. He says so that Milady does not listen to this nonsense. This is obviously a lie, but the woman claims that she is talking to the princess, and she dares to interfere. The brunette only smiles after this, and the woman says that they should be seized and kept under strict supervision. After she learns from the princess about the situation, she asks His Majesty to sort it out, to which the girls agree. And the lady with green hair falls to her knees and tells them to wait, because she really didn't do anything. Well, the woman tells them not to stop, after which the maids are taken away. One of them turns to the brunette and scolds her and also asks if she was stalling for time and that they had set this all up. She also says that she will put her into eternal sleep and she will not be able to escape. Well, the brunette claims that only by getting rid of someone can you save your life, and she is different from her. At this time, the main character is thinking about who she put into eternal sleep and whether there really was someone else, besides Bella. At this time, the woman turns to Her Highness and tells her not to be afraid because the Emperor will protect her. The girl then thinks that it's true because only he can control her life. She also hugs the woman and says that she is not afraid because His Majesty will help. A little while later, the butler turns to His Majesty and asks if he is not going to Esther's palace. After all, it's not too late and you can find out what's going on there. However, the man asks where he can go because he has more important things to do and he can't deal with these little things. But the butler tells His Majesty that today's business is decided, and the man tells him to hurry up and also invite the Duke because he will discuss with him further actions to provide assistance in the event of a natural disaster. Butler claims that the Grand Duke left about 15 minutes ago, but at that very moment someone enters the room and claims that the palace manager wishes to see His Majesty. A little while later, the woman tells His Majesty that she is glad to meet him, and the man asks her to tell him what the matter is. The woman claims that she discovered the crime of the maids in Esther's palace and came to report to His Majesty, so she asks him to make a decision. She also claims that the head maid and the other 5 lied about embezzlement and insulted the other maids, stole the princess's jewelry, and even beat and scolded the princess in an attempt to cause an accident. And besides, the man then hits the table and asks what else. And the woman claims that in addition, the appearance of Princess Anastasia in the abandoned palace is also a conspiracy of Vinny and Turner. The man asks if this is the main thing, conspirators. To which the woman replies that this girl insisted that everything was provoked by another maid, but she was the only one who inspired the post-head couple against the princess. A little girl who knows nothing is too easily deceived, and the lower officials will continue to thoroughly investigate this matter. The man then says that after the investigation, everyone will be severely punished because one cannot treat the ruling family lightly and let them behead her and her accomplices. The butler then turns to the woman and asks if she knows a maid named Bella. The woman replies that she served Her Royal Highness and is one of the victims. The butler then states that when the princess was taken to the abandoned palace, then the maid turned to the doctor for help. Well, the woman then says that Bella never left Esther's palace, which makes His Majesty and the butler surprised, after which the woman asks if they know what the maid looked like. After all, maybe she didn't tell her real name. The man then says that he will let the prince investigate this and let GN go down and go first. The woman then answers that yes and says that she will go. Then, when she leaves, the man claims that he didn't even know what happened in the palace, and also offers to tell the butler what to do if someone harms his daughter again. The man claims that the princess is still very young and she should have her own knight. Well, the emperor claims that ordinary knights will not do, after which the butler asks if he should assign knights to her. The blonde also asks about Elvis and Howard, to which the butler replies that she is a very sweet child. But at this time, someone else is standing behind the door and overhears this. The butler then turns around and asks if this is really Her Majesty, Princess Audie. The girl then turns to her father and asks if the girls in the palace are really making fun of her sister Anastasia. The man then asks where the girl heard it, and she replies that it was from the prince's brother, after which the man says that they haven't seen their sister for a long time, and since her father is now free, why shouldn't she go with them to her? The girl then starts to say something, but the man says that they are leaving right now, so let him bring Howard. To which the butler agrees and states that he will bring her now. The main character is lying in bed at this time. A little while later, His Majesty asks why she fell asleep just now. The maid immediately bows and says that she is glad to see His Majesty as well as Princess Audie. The main character then opens her eyes, and Princess Audie says that she has woken up, after which the girl turns to her father. However, her sister tells the girl not to get up because the little sister is still sick and the king will not object. She also turns to her father and asks if this is true. But the man just approaches the girl and asks why she doesn't sleep under the blanket. The maid claims that the blanket was dirty, but then the man screams, "Don't they have another simple blanket?" Audie then says that your subordinates must have done their job not being afraid of their master's father and sister. Well, the man claims that this makes sense because those who do not know good and bad will be ruthless. The main character realizes that she told about Miss JN's pendant, and didn't she tell her father about it? Or did her father just not believe her because this matter concerns her? At this time, Princess Audie claims that he is the youngest knight in the palace and even his father praised him. Therefore, her sister must cherish him, but the guy only gets angry and turns away. The main character at this time turns to her father and asks what he did with these maids, to which he replies that 3 of the instigators were beheaded and the rest were driven out of the city. The girl then asks who these 3 inspirers are, to which the man replies that they are Vinnie Turner and son. Well, at that very moment, someone turns to the father and the man asks why he is there. The prince then asks if his father had not ordered him to come and identify the maid, to which the man replies that he has been busy for some time. At this time, Audie turns to his sister and tells her not to worry. After all, their father had already given the order that the maids would be severely punished, to which the main character thanks him. Well, she still says that this daughter wants to ask her father for them. The man is surprised by this, after which he asks her to tell him why he asked them. The girl claims that they said that they did not intimidate her intentionally, and that was all because Vinnie beat them and they could not do otherwise. The girl also thinks that her request probably angered him, but at that moment the butler enters with the knight, and also tells Her Majesty and Princess Audie that he is glad to meet. He also tells His Highness that he has brought a knight who meets the requirements, and that this is his chosen knight. The main character then turns to the prince and asks what he is talking about. He replies that he is talking about someone calling himself a servant in her palace and saying that she was taken there and begging to be saved. At this time, Audie asks if it is really so easy to deceive them. But the man only tells the guy to name names, and he claims that it is Sandra and Carmen. The main character realizes that she thought she was just trying to stop her from doing it, after which the emperor states that he will ask the palace to thoroughly investigate this matter, and if this is true, then he will allow them to be returned, to which the main character thanks him. And the man says that since the girl is sick, she should first have a good rest. Anastasia thanks her father again, and when he leaves, she tells the butler to ask GN immediately, send all the missing items and select a few more maids to replace the previous ones. A little while ago, the knight asked how he could swear allegiance to some girl when he wanted to be the most powerful knight in the palace. His brother then claimed that she was a princess, but the boy claimed that it was just an empty title. Then someone else said that the king's order could not be broken, and that's how much His Majesty attached importance to Howard's family, so let the guy not show even more waywardness. But after this, the young man cries out, isn't his father afraid that this will harm his future? However, his brother then cries out to Elle and says that becoming the princess's knight is not a bad thing for him since she has a cowardly nature and will not make his job difficult. The guy claims that he is not afraid that it will be difficult with her, but he just doesn't want to ruin his life with this. The man then tells the boy to listen, but he screams that he understands and will be obedient and will also sacrifice himself for the sake of the family. And when the young man comes out, his brother says that if it weren't for his illness, then even if there was an order, it would be him. But the man claims that this child is simply too proud. A little while later, the main character is in the palace courtyard drinking tea with her father and sister. Audie claims that unfortunately with the Father King, the younger sister suffered for so long in vain, but the girl tells her father that everything is fine. The man then says that, okay, the princess should really be ashamed when she was bullied by a group of simple maids. The main character then says that this daughter is glad to see them and of course thinks that no matter how much they bully her, he only cares about his status. Well, then the main character sees someone else, and a guy with red hair comes up to her and kneels down. After which he claims that Elvis Howard is pleased to meet Her Royal Highness Princess Anastasia. The girl wonders if this is an oath, after which she looks at her father and thinks how he could give her a knight from the Howard family. The guy at this time, he claims that he is ready to devote his life and mind to her, and also swears never to betray and to be faithful to her until the end of his life, so he asks her to accept. Well, then he doesn't finish the story, and the main character only claims that she accepts his devotion. The emperor claims that in that case he will be her knight, and he hopes that they will get along, to which the girl replies that they will definitely get along. The man at this time claims that he hopes no one will hurt his daughter in Esther's palace again. The guy then plans to say something to the king, and the main character claims that the knight that the father chose for his daughter will definitely protect her from bullying. She also talks about her sister's pendant and says that she would like to return it to her. The girl then asks what pendant she is talking about, and the main character claims that it looks like Winnie stole it. Audie claims that last month she really lost the pendant and couldn't find it, but it turned out that it was stolen. The emperor at this time wonders why she did not report this to the imperial palace, and the main character understands that, as expected, GN wanted to resolve the problem between the princesses, but this matter could not end so easily. Then the main character claims that they told her that they wanted to find out exactly why they took the pendant first. Audie claims that her father gave her the pendant and that after losing it, she felt sad for a long time, but she will not be able to wear what the maid took again. The man then says that he will order an exact copy to be created for her, and the girl claims that for Audie, his father is the best in the world. The main character at this time only watches all this. A little while later, the prince watches how the two girls are walking, and he thinks that this is unexpected. But the father really did call Anastasia a cheese knight. After which he turns to his father, who asks what's wrong with the boy's face. The young man claims that he saw the youngest son of the Howard family and his sisters on the way here. That's why he wonders whose knight he became. The man then wonders if the guy is really that interested, and he claims that his son is very curious. The emperor then says that at her age, a girl should already choose a knight for herself. The prince then says that as he thought the repeated cases of the epidemic on the battlefield a few days ago have been brought under control, and this is the Duke's letter in which he asked his father to read it. The man then suggests talking about it and asks what he thinks about it. The prince claims that the situation with the epidemic is changing from day to day, and the Duke did not dare to fight it without permission. Moreover, the Duke is not a little, so he bears full responsibility for the fear that his body will not be able to fight for long. The man then says that he has also recently thought about his concerns and wants to send another person to share the worries and take responsibility for the Duke, but the prince also knows that if he does not force someone to take on this task, no one will want to take the initiative. The prince then says that the plague is still. It remains taboo for everyone, but if his father allows it, he is ready to try. The butler then claims that the area of the epidemic is dangerous and His Royal Highness should not go there. The emperor says that he thinks so too and the boy should not go. But the prince then says that the Duke may not get sick just like him, after which the blonde asserts that the opportunity is rare and let the prince try. After all, he represents the royal family, and they will be able to directly decide on the disposal plan when time is running out, and the pressure on the Duke should also be reduced. The man also asks what the boy thinks of Elvis. The prince then says that this kid always wanted to go to the battlefield. Now his hopes are completely gone, so he fears that he is dissatisfied. The volunteer claims that his brother has been sick all year, and if he sends him back to the battlefield, how can he explain to his father, who has fallen into eternal sleep for the country, why he had such a short life? The prince then says that he hopes he will slow down his temper with Anastasia. At this time, the main character turns to the guy and asks how she should now speak to him and call him Elvis or El. The guy says that the princess can just call him by his last name, and the main character then calls him Howard. Well, when she wants to say something else, the maid comes into the room and tells Her Highness that everything is ready in the knight's room. The guy claims that the knight will go to rest first, so if the princess has any questions, she knows where he is. The guy then moves on, and the main character asks if all the guardian knights have this attitude. After which the girl also says that okay, and let the maid bring dessert, because in front of her father she did not dare to take anything, except tea, and now she almost falls into eternal sleep from hunger. Bella then agrees and says that she will bring everything right now. At this time, Audie breaks the mug. After which she asks if the servant can't brew tea well and what to do with it. She also suggests that he not say what kind of brew it is. It is not the knight's duty, because he feels wronged and she doesn't think he can compare to anyone as a knight because he was crushed by this little idiot. The man then says that this knight was incompetent and asks for forgiveness. But the girl claims that he has such a stupid face and now it is his turn to take care, not hers. She also asks if he is angry with her, but the man replies that he doesn't dare. The girl then asks if the headmaid named Winnie has said anything in her palace, to which he replies that she hasn't yet. However, the girl claims that her father found out and sent someone for a thorough investigation. When she started talking about her pendant, the girl could not remain silent. Audie also states that she can't wait for this girl to be on the gallows, so let him think of a way, and she wants to hear the news of her being put into eternal sleep before tomorrow. The guy feels confused by this, and the girl asks if he really won't do it, after which the man kneels down and tells Her Highness that he can't do it. The girl then tells him to forget about it because he really can't do it, and then let him go to the palace and bring this man, and she will confess this to her. The girl also asks if he heard her now, to which he replies that he did. A little while later, two knights are fighting each other, and one of them claims that today is the guy's first day as Princess Anastasia's knight, so he doesn't care why he came to training so early. The red-haired boy replies that she doesn't wake up before 10 in the morning and he can't wait that long, so this is the perfect time to practice fencing. Then the other knight says that it's good to be a knight. And Elle replies that Her Royal Highness Princess Audie is gentle and also understanding, so of course he thinks that's good. The knight then replies that yes, and the guy with red hair asks if his training time is the same as before, because if so, he will come to him when he is done with business. His colleague replies that he is always his sparring partner and cannot stand to be worse than him. Elle claims that today is his start, so let the guy not be angry because he remembers that his grades were always better than his, so why is he so modest? But when his interlocutor is about to answer something, the maid bursts into the room and screams that it's a disaster. Everything is really bad. One of them asks what happened, and the girl replies that Winnie committed suicide out of fear of execution. The guy then goes to go there, but another knight grabs him. Elle then asks him, "What is it?" But he replies that it's nothing, and that his friend should be careful, to which he replies that he understands and will return soon. At this time, the main character is talking to the maid and asks whether Winnie stole the pendant or whether Sister Audie gave it to her. The maid replies that she personally said that the gay pendant was a gift from Her Highness, and that Winnie has always been very close to the Princess Anastasia, then asks if she can find any more convincing evidence, and the brunette replies that her room is guarded very well and they will not be able to enter it, so she is afraid that she can't do anything, and it's too late. The main character asks what she means, and the maid claims that even if they get evidence, the man must be alive so that he could say at least something. The knight is at the door at this time and hears all this. He also wonders if bullying, fear of adversity, and slander behind her back is her true face, but Princess Audie is so kind, so the guy wonders what she did to this girl. The brunette at this time says that, and they will not be able to prove anything anymore. The guy at this time thinks whether human life is really of interest to her only for this. At this time, the main character asks to believe her. The maid says that it is good and she believes her. The knight then thinks that this maid had been bullying the girl the day before, but now she obeys her because he had never seen anyone more stupid than her. After which the guy turns around and the main character tells Sandra that she can help her. However, when the guy moves on, he suddenly hits the vase and it falls. The maid then opens the door and asks Mr. Howard why he is outside, and then asks him to come in. The guy then comes into the room and claims that he just heard their conversation. Anastasia says that it doesn't matter whether he heard or not. She hopes that the guy will pay attention to this problem in the future. The red-haired boy then asks what he should pay attention to, and whether it is necessary in order to help her slander Princess Audie. Or is there something else that makes Her Royal Highness dislike the princess father and decide to harm her? Anastasia claims that she also hopes that this is some kind of misunderstanding, so she is looking for more evidence. The guy asks if she's talking about evidence, and he's afraid they'll never find anything like that. The main character then says that if he thinks that her way of protecting herself is wrong, then who else? But he should think about how to protect her right now. The young man then cries out that he is a knight and not her slave, so why should he think about it? And isn't the man who almost put her into eternal sleep standing in front of her now? The main character then says that just like she doesn't need the guy to respect her and it seems that she shouldn't expect him to protect her, and then she at least hopes that they will live in peace with dignity and not spend time standing at the door and eavesdropping. After which the young man turns around and leaves. At this time, Audie's mother turns to her daughter and tells her not to be so impulsive when she does such things in the future. At least let her tell her first, because if she hadn't heard the news to explain to the female officials, then the little girl could have given her away. And besides, she heard that Adelita had left early this morning for the epidemic area. Audie says that it must be so, because without a mother, he can only rely on this method to please his father and secure his position as a prince. However, the girl also says that when he leaves, no one will protect this little girl. The woman replies that the maid's immersion in eternal sleep is so obvious that lately it is better not to make unnecessary movements, and her father only spoke to her on a whim, and then not for long. Adelita's cowardly temperament cannot hinder them, but because of the personality of the eldest son, his majestic gaze is clouded, and if he is still determined to protect others, then there will always be moments when they can fall into eternal sleep together. And she also has to go to the temple with Kaleido to pray for the victims. The girl then says that in such hot weather, it takes a whole day to visit the temple. And he wonders who they are bothering. The woman replies that the prince has gone to the epidemic area, and they must show their father their sincerity, after which the girl says that it is good, and she goes. The main character is at the estate at this time. She realizes that the pocket watch has started working again in the last 2 days, as if they were directing her somewhere. After which the lady approaches one of the doors, and when she opens it, then she sees a strange circle with candles and a torn note. The girl wonders if these strange words are connected with her mother's disappearance. She also asks the clock about this, but then hears nothing in response, and tells the clock to forget about it because she didn't expect it to say anything. The lady also claims that she must return earlier, otherwise it will be bad if the knight finds out that she is not in the palace. The blonde turns around and realizes that the dog hole has been sealed, and she hopes that it will not be discovered again when she leaves the gate. A little while later, the girl already sees one guy and asks if this is Joshua, and also thinks whether she should go and say hello, but maybe he doesn't remember her. But at that moment, someone asks the girl why she is there. The main character turns to the man and claims that Anastasia wanted to see her father. The man then says that's how it is, and the lady claims that his daughter saw that the weather was nice, and so she wanted to go for a walk, but the blondes wonder why she is without a knight then. The girl replies that he should practice martial arts and asks if this is true. To which he replies that it is clear and says that the lady should return to the palace earlier if everything is in order. Anastasia says yes, and she will do so. The butler then turns to His Majesty and says that it seems that Her Royal Highness and the boy Elle are not getting along very well. The blonde then replies that he thinks the guy hasn't trained with swords for a long time, so the weather is nice today, so he's giving him a half-day vacation. The butler replies that he understood what His Majesty meant, so he will go. Well then, someone else turns to the Emperor. Elle at this time tells the knights to fight him again, but they answer that there is no way because they are all exhausted already. At that moment, someone else turns to Elle, and he says what a rare opportunity this is, after which he asks if the guy will go with him. The red-haired boy asks the gentleman why he is there, and he replies that if the child is in trouble, that he should come and see His Majesty, heard that the boy was unwilling to protect Her Highness the 7th Princess. So he almost packed all his things and moved to the martial arts training ground. Elle wonders if the girl complained to His Majesty. To which the butler replies that not quite and that he saw Her Majesty by accident, so the guy himself gave cause for concern, and it turned out to be true. The red-haired boy then tells the sir to listen to his explanation, and when he agrees, he tells the boy that he does not want to be with someone who suspects and constantly slanders Princess Audie every day. Well, at that very moment, a sword is pressed against the guy's neck, and the butler claims that this is the most important thing for a guard. This is to learn to keep the master's secret to oneself, so the guys should not worry about the relationship between their highnesses. The young man then wants to object, but the butler coldly asks if he understood. The guy replies that yes, he understands, and the butler says that he is still young and some things will become clear later. When the gossip is over, let him come over and they discuss it together. A little while later, the guy is already heading out into the rainy day with an umbrella. He also wonders what Lord Amos's words mean, and if there is some hidden secret in everything he sees. The guy also thinks what an 8-year-old child can know, and he must be thinking too much. The main character is folding papers and looking at them, then she hears the door open. The lady immediately covers all these papers and collects them and also asks why the guy doesn't knock on the door before entering. The guy with red hair answers that he came back specifically to report to the princess, so that Tanya would say that he is leaving without permission. The girl claims that he left in the morning and now it is almost lunchtime, so what else can be considered leaving without permission? Ella says that Her Highness thinks that everyone is like her who has a lot of time to collect papers every day and who don't need to do anything. Well, Anastasia screams at him to stay there because he is all wet, so he shouldn't come closer. The guy then gets angry and claims that the disease in the southern epidemic zone is getting worse, and after every heavy rain there will be floods, so the victims are constantly living in pain from the loss of their loved ones, but she is afraid that he might stain the floor. The main character replies that everything is not so, but the guy says that His Royal Highness has been ill since childhood. But he personally went to the areas of the epidemic where there is a huge risk, and even Princess Ati and their Royal Highness, the 3 princes, went to the royal temple to pray for the victims despite the rain. She is also a member of the royal family, but she is exceptionally noble. After this, the main character thinks about the temple. The guy cries out, "Is it really so difficult for her to do something within her capabilities?" The lady then turns to Mr. Howard and asserts that this is not what he should say as a knight. And she accepts his request, but she doesn't want to hear his rebuke anymore. The guy then says that if she doesn't want to listen, then let him not listen because he has nothing more to say, and the guy leaves the room. The main character realizes that in the royal capital there is just an ordinary temple for the royal family, and to visit the main god. But she heard that in the real temple there are many long-lost characters carved on the wall, and there is even a statue of the main god. If they can visit the temple, then perhaps she will be able to unravel this secret. Joshua is busy writing a letter at this time, where he writes that His Majesty has called him to him, and he heard that the bank is going to say a new will. The high priest has gone to Beijing, so he asks if everything is okay. He also wonders if everything is okay with his father and His Royal Highness, because the plague is still spreading, so he hopes that His Highness will take care of his health. At this time, the main character is on her bed and looking at the paper that she glued together. The girl understands that she obviously doesn't know a word, but she wonders why she has such a familiar feeling as if she's seen it somewhere before. The girl looks at the words and remembers how her mother said about one of them that it was her birthday. That's why now the main character gets out of bed and screams at her mother. Well, at that very moment she hears someone running up, and it turns out to be the maid. She wonders if Her Highness had another nightmare, to which the girl replies that no, and everything is fine. The woman then asks what time it is, and tells Her Highness that it is already late, so she should go to bed quickly, otherwise she will catch a cold again. Then the main character goes to bed and says goodnight to her mother. At this time, the lady with red hair, together with the high priest of the temple, goes to one of the rooms. The man then greets Her Majesty, Her Royal Majesty, and Her Royal Highness. The blonde says that there is no need to be polite, and asks why the Duke returned to the palace so early. The man replies that this is about what was explained to His Majesty in a letter a few days ago, and he wanted to meet His Majesty earlier. Then the Emperor puts down his pen and says that it seems that something has happened. The Duke replies that not seeing Wang Shui, "You can't see the will of God." The blonde asks what that means, and the man answers that the words of the Lord God may be that His Majesty should go to the temple and listen to the will of God. The guy then asks if he should listen and turns to his daughter, and also claims that he and Miss Lance have always been close so she can keep her company on the road. The girl then plans to say something to her father, and her mother claims that Adi never left her and suddenly let her go so far so she might become afraid of this. Let His Majesty give her a little time, and moreover, it will only be a more formal sacrifice. If His Majesty steps forward, well, the blonde man claims that His Majesty cannot be in the epidemic zone and he cannot leave. The woman claims that the second prince is already 16 years old. The guy then claims that it would be okay to send Beavis to polish his character and asks the Duke what he thinks. The man replies that he thinks it would be better to ask His Royal Highness not to rush because if this does not work, then let him ask any princess to come. The man claims that yesterday the prince sent back a letter in which he said that he was ill and had a sick body, which added to the chaos. The woman then says that she wonders if some of the princesses have free time. Adi then says that this daughter heard Sister Anastasia say that she wanted to pray for the victims a few days ago, and yesterday, thinking of her sister, she went with Kalai to the temple of the royal capital. However, her mother claims that the seventh princess is still young, so His Majesty must inform her first and find out what she thinks about it. The man then says that it is fine and suggests that one of the servants go and invite Beavis as well as Anastasia. The high priest at this time says that His Majesty has made a decision, so he will leave first. The man says that the Duke has worked hard all the way, so let him rest in peace. The woman at this time says that His Majesty's political affairs are important, so she will stay with him until the end, and his daughter claims that the father must take care of his body and not be in need for a period, otherwise his daughter will be upset. The man then says with a smile on his face that it is good and he will be attentive. But at this time the butler turns to His Majesty and asks if he really plans to let these two fall into eternal sleep. The blonde replies that he needs to check something and he wants to look at their relationship, if, of course, Anastasia wants to go. The butler then asks His Majesty if he really wants to do this. And the blonde replies that the Duke's words made sense, because such an opportunity to pray for people is rare, and the imperial family must come. With this child, he feels relieved. Well then, the butler claims that the purpose of His Highness's trip is indeed different, and His Royal Highness can take this opportunity to make a plea, but the princess will not receive any benefit, and if Her Highness Anastasia refuses to go, what will His Majesty do? The man replies that the girl is a child of 8 or 9 years old, and if she refuses, he will not force her. A little while later, the main character bows, and she says that she is glad to meet His Royal Highness Duchess. The guy only nods after that, and also asks if the father called the lady from behind the temple to something. He answers that probably, and the guy says that in that case she'd better pray so that her father doesn't send her with him. Anastasia understands that it looks like the second brother doesn't want to go to church. She is not the best person to go to the temple, and if she is too active it will make people suspicious, so it is better to go later, and she will reluctantly agree when the second brother refuses father. A little while later, the man tells the girl not to be so polite and asks what she thinks about the temple. The main character is about to answer, but at that very moment she sneezes and the man asks if she is sick. Anastasia replies that she caught a slight cold and did not have time to see a doctor. At this time, her brother claims that her father is still waiting her answer and asks whether the girl is coming or not. The blonde replies that this daughter is ready to go. The man then asks if she knows what that means. And the girl replies that this daughter does not know, but understands that this is a sacrifice that can come in a decade. So how could she not understand this meaning? Well, this is her only chance, and she must not miss it. The man claims that sometimes the will of the main god cannot be conveyed directly to the high priest, and to help with the sacrifice, the red liquid of the royal family is required. It is necessary to make the shadow of the main god descend briefly, and it writes his words on paper with red liquid. The main character then wonders if it turns out that there will be a lot of red liquid. To which the butler replies that yes, but that is not all, because if the heart is not religious enough, then it can offend the main god. So if the lady, but the main character at the same moment blocks it and tells her father that she wants to go. The man asks if she is sure about the girl. She answers that the will of the Lord God is very important and she can bless the sick. In this case, the father will not have to be so tired, so this daughter wants to try. The man then says that she can go, and also the Duke of Rams and Elvis Hauer. Oh, will go with her. Non-lady should be at least a little concerned about her safety. Her knight told him about the events of the last few days, and the man does not want the lady to be separated because of a small conflict. They were separated because of a small conflict. Elvis is a very good knight, so let the lady not be too harsh with him. The main character understands that she has not done anything yet, but he has already gone to complain. The butler only sighs for a while, and the man says that, okay, the girl can go and rest. And in 10 days, let her come, and he wrote to the Duke and also told him to go to the temple to meet her. A little while later, the two come out into the street, and their knights greet the two. The prince then turns to the red-haired boy and asks if he is the young knight his father especially admires. Well, when did he come in today? There was no one around with his sister Anastasia, although this is not so important because he trains a lot and is just returning from the training ground, so this is commendable. The young man then asks Milady what this means. Anastasia thinks what he doesn't like, and she hasn't said anything yet, so why is he looking at her like that? At this time, the prince turns to the lady and asks what the knight doesn't like. And the main character at this time turns to the knight and says that when they return to the palace, they need to discuss something. The guy at this time pulls his hand away and says that Her Highness can tell him everything now, or she is afraid that others will hear her. The girl then screams that this is all because the bum lied to her father and he knows it himself, as Elle claims that he hasn't seen His Majesty for the last few days. So what could he have told him, and Her Highness apparently misunderstood him, so she began to accuse him without understanding. And isn't it funny to bring accusations against him just like that? The girl then cries out that His Majesty, the father, somehow found out about this. Well, then the prince puts his hand on the girl's shoulder and says that unfortunately his sister made a mistake and turned out to be wrong, so let him do his job well and do it for himself. Then the two part ways, and much later someone knocks on the door of the office to tell His Highness. The man then tells the man to come in, and one of the butlers tells His Majesty that the doctor asked if he had finished his medicine. The guy then says that today is the last 3 and asks if that's true. He also throws the medicine on the floor and says that the guy remembers his schedule even better than him. The butler claims that in addition the messenger is waiting for a response from His Highness. The boy then says that it looks like his father doesn't plan to give him time to think about it, and the butler says that he can refuse. Well, the guy just tells the butler to go and answer, and also says that he is sick and can only come to the temple in a few days. Let him also tell the Duke that his heart hurts, and he cannot accompany him to the army tomorrow because of his condition. A little while later, the prince walks around the room and asks why there is no news yet. Since it has been 3 or 4 days since Adelita received the letter, Audie asks why he is in such a hurry, since the return journey will take several days. The guy then claims that the father would never send 2 princesses, and of course the girl is never in a hurry, but if Ryder does not go, then he will be out of luck. The girl replies that the high priest asked him to leave because he was a prince, and it was his turn from the princes, and even if he does not go. So can someone release the red liquid at will? Well, the young man then screams, what if Anastasia doesn't go either? The girl is a little surprised by this, but then claims that it will be even better this way. After this, the market advises not to make unnecessary movements because if something happens to the victim, then no one will be lucky. Audie replies that of course, and she will pray with him for her safety on the way to the temple and for the ceremony to go smoothly. She has no reason to harm them, let alone sacrifice. And what's more, even if she dares to do something in the temple, can she hide it from the high priest? Well, as for the way back, she will prepare a special gift for the girl. The guy claims that his side will not let her down either. A little while later, the main character is heading in a carriage and thinks that this is the first time in 2 lives that she has left this city. The lady also hopes that the temple can give her more clues so that she can find the Book of Prophecies sooner. Then someone else turns to the princess and invites her to look at how beautiful it is there. But when she looks at the princess, she asks if she really fell asleep so quickly. At this time, the main character remembers how she was lying at the table, and the lady with red hair asked if she had fallen asleep so quickly and suggested that she go. The Duke then asked if 5 pieces was too much, and the lady replied that there shouldn't be anything special and that she would just sleep longer. The blonde then asked if the lady really wanted to go to the theater that much, and she replied that the girl shouldn't know that he promised to accompany her to the theater. Hey, if he doesn't want to do that, then she can go alone. The Duke then wondered what else he could do because in his heart she was not as important as Heidi, so let the lady not be jealous. After which the girls said that they could go, otherwise they would miss the opening scene. Now the lady with red hair turns to the main character, and one day she wakes up. Then he tells the girl to stay away from her. The red-haired lady then asks the princess what happened and whether she had a nightmare. The main character replies that everything is fine and it is just not very usual to ride in a carriage, so she is a little uncomfortable. Heidi says that she understands and the journey will take at least 10 days, so if the lady feels uncomfortable, then she should definitely tell her about it. Anastasia realizes that she was wrong and this is no longer a past life, and the lady with red hair at this time says that maybe she should take some motion sickness medicine. The girl replies that no, and everything is fine, after which Heidi says that it's okay. And the lady can just keep it to herself for now, but the girl screams that she says everything is fine. At the same moment, the carriage runs over a rock, or the lady with red hair begins to fall on the main character. Well, Anastasia pushes her away. The knight then screams that Mrs. Lance is so kind and asks if she really treats others so well. The main character then asks what he means and how she feels about her. The lady with red hair then says that it has nothing to do with the princess, and that she is just that kind of person. The guy at this time thinks that this girl is so willful that she does not know how to apologize if she pushes someone, and now she does not say a word and asks others to help her explain everything. At the same moment, the main character hears someone say that it is the high priest, and also the messenger of God. The girl looks out the window and people say that they should be allowed to listen to the will of the Lord God. The main character asks who these people are outside, and the lady with red hair claims that they will have to go through the epidemic zone. The knight claims that the epidemic zone is very far from them, and to pass the zone you need at least 5 days, so he wonders how long the lady slept. Heidi claims that for safety reasons they will bypass this epidemic zone, so the way will be long. The knight then throws a couple more angry words to his mistress and says that the mister should pay attention to his attitude. The lady with red hair at this time asks them not to quarrel because it will be bad if the father of the league hears this. The main character Avatar Time only offers the girl to help with medicine. The knight looked at all these people and said that he did not believe that there was a God in this world. And if the Lord God really exists, then why doesn't he save these people? The main character says that the main God is not omnipotent. If he can do everything, then what is the point of their efforts? The guy claims that if there is a God, then naturally he will need their help. The main character then turns to him and asks if it is really in his eyes. All misfortunes happen because of God's incompetence. The guy replies that he didn't mean that. And the girl claims that she is trying her best to fulfill the duties of the royal family, and what else does he do? Besides complaining, the guy's unwillingness to make progress makes his family ashamed of him. The main character asks how he dares to slander the royal princess for so long, and the guy claims that she goes too far. A little while later, the carriage arrives at the place, and when the butler opens the door, then the high priest sees the two of them glaring at each other. A little while later, they all head to the shrine. Anastasia understands that this is a temple with a long history and the most sacred place of Arthur's kingdom. So the main character says that it is so exciting. One of the knights turns to the high priest and claims that His Royal Highness's carriage has arrived. Else approaches them, and the guy kneeling says that he is greeting the servant of the Lord God. The high priest replies that the Lord God bless him, after which he turns to His Highnesses accompanying him and asks them to follow him. After which they are about to climb the stairs to the doors to the temple. Well, at that very moment, someone stands on a piece of the girl's dress. The main character then falls and thinks that this is a holy emblem, and if she touches it, but at that very moment the lady accidentally touches her because she falls. The lady with red hair understands that before leaving, Princess Adi specially told her everything so that the girl should let her take care of her. And being near this girl, it seems she will soon be able to receive a reward. The main character understands that touching the sacred emblem is the greatest disrespect for the kingdom and divine power. If they find out in the palace, then she can be plunged into eternal sleep for this. The girl also notices how the prince covers her, but still thinks that she cannot fall into eternal sleep in such a stupid way. After which, the lady on her knees says that she greets the Lord God. The girl also understands that the Lord God gives her will to the believers who have come to the temple for the first time, and it seems that this is the only way she can save herself, but those who use the name of the Lord God will be punished in the most severe manner, and this is the punishment of God. The lady with red hair at this time is wondering if Anastasia really wants to study with the oracle, or if she has chosen the most stupid path. Well, the prince at this time suggests the girl to go quickly, and she agrees, after which they move on. But when they do this, the main character turns to the lady with red hair and thinks that she can't even hope to deceive her and do something nasty to her. A little while later, they are already heading down the corridor, and the main character is looking at the walls. She stops in front of one of the frescoes and realizes that she has seen these words before. Then the girl begins to remember her mother and the old days, and her head immediately begins to hurt. The lady with red hair touches Her Majesty and asks, "What is it?" Well, then the main character just falls, and the priest screams, "What happened?" Heidi replies that she doesn't know and she just touched the lady. The prince at this time claims that he is in a hurry to remind them that if something happens, they will follow. Well, the knight claims that he can prove that Her Royal Highness Anastasia suddenly stopped walking and stopped in front of the fresco, and Miss Lance wanted to hurry, Her Royal Highness, to which the girl screams that this is so, and she really did nothing. After which she also asks if this could be God's punishment, and if the lady was not fine, so why did she faint when she entered? Well then, the man screams for her to shut up and not talk nonsense, and also to call the maids so that they can help Her Highness get into the room to rest. The knight at this time claims that Her Royal Highness Anastasia felt uncomfortable on the way, and the prince claims that he is also to blame for not noticing that she is still young and leaving the palace for the first time. Well, then they hear some sound, and the guy claims it's the oracle. The high priest also says it's time to go to the oracle. After all, if they do not come to him on time, then the Lord God will be angry. He also turns to the knight, and he tells the guy to stay there and take care of Anastasia, to which he replies yes, and wishes good luck to His Royal Highness and also to the high priest. The main character is sitting on the ground, breathing heavily at this time. A little while later, the knight and the lady are on the balcony. The lady with red hair calls out Anastasia's full name and surname, and the knight asks why she calls them out. The girl replies that she has heard that the Lord God has sent an oracle connected with her who must accuse her of disrespect for God. But the young man claims that he has heard nothing, after which the girl claims that he has never heard the bells before, and they say that only the direct line between the royal family and their family can listen to the voice of the Lord God, and others rarely hear it. The guy then asks what the oracle said, and the girl replies that only the successive high priests and His Majesty the King can hear the full prediction, so how could she know what was said? The girl also says that because of their disrespect for the main god, her father has already made a decision and he will not allow them to go to the altar, and the admirer, as the closest knight to the lady, he must confess to bragging with her, to which the guy screams that he is not so close to her. Well then, the girl turns to him and says in a whisper that her father knows what he said in the carriage earlier, but he won't tell anyone. At this time, the main character says that it is already so late and asks why they are there. The guy wonders if she just heard everything, and that's even better because he doesn't want to put up with it anymore. The knight also claims that he doesn't have to explain everything to her. Well then, the main character tells Mr. Howard to come to her immediately. The guy then cries out, "Why?" And the girl replies that he is her knight, but did not fulfill his duty to protect her, and she did not give the order, but he met with a noble lady without permission. The guy then cries out with a request that Her Highness understand that he is her knight, not her servant, and this is not a palace, so it is his duty not to stand at her door without moving a single step. The main character then wonders if it is not a knight's duty to take care when a member of the royal family gets sick, but the young man claims that the catch is that the lady is not sick, and the doctor said that she is healthy and is just pretending to be asleep to avoid being killed. The girl replies that the ceremony will take place in 3 days, and she will definitely go there. Well, the guy claims that it's all over anyway, and if that's what she wants, she can continue to pretend to be sick. The guy also says that, to put it bluntly, they never really thought about sacrificing a little for the sake of the common people. The girl then claims that this is said by someone who does not believe in the existence of God in the world and blames only her, but the guy then screams that, of course, only she is to blame. The young lady then screams out what he just said, and the lady with red hair tells Her Highness not to quarrel. Well, the main character just pushes her and asks Miss Lance if she set her up in the temple, and if she is not afraid of punishment from the Lord God. Heidi then asks for her forgiveness but claims that God punished Lady Anastasia, not her. The main character claims that she accidentally touched the emblem of God and received forgiveness from the main god, but will the person who set her up be able to get off so easily? And since Miss has a clear conscience, let her join her to meet the high priest and the prince. At this time, the knight turns to the main character and asks if she is ashamed to use His Royal Highness as a shield, and if she touches the divine emblem voluntarily, then His Royal Highness will feel better, so the sacrifices will be started in advance. The main character then wonders what happened to her brother, the prince. Well, those two just remain silent, after which the main character tells them to get out of the way because she is going to visit the prince's brother. But at that very moment, the knight addresses her as a child of destiny. At that moment, someone knocks on the prince's office. The guy tells this man to come in, and it turns out to be the high priest. He asks if His Highness is feeling better, to which he replies that it is not that serious, and that he has become much better after taking the medication. The guy also says that it is the responsibility of the royal family, and wouldn't it be better if the victim could get the protection of the Lord God before the victim? He also claims that the high priest came there personally and asked if something happened. The man then asks if the prince heard the oracle, and he asks if he is really talking about the message about Anastasia. He vaguely heard her full name and a few broken words, but the man then wondered whether the prince could repeat the content of these words. The guy then says that there was something about a child of the temple, after which the priest Progress asks His Highness if he heard more words. And the guy replies that he must have heard the same thing as the high priest because his heart suddenly began to hurt, and it only went away now, but he didn't hear it clearly. The man then says that the high priest was too persistent and suggests that His Highness go and rest early, to which he thanks him. And when the man leaves, the guy pushes aside the book, under which is the oracle's message that he wrote down, there that the words of the temple echo each other, and the girl has extraordinary abilities, so let her use them to prevent an unknown danger. The guy burns this paper and thinks if he can use this oracle's prediction as an additional trump card. At this time, the knight goes after the Royal Highness Anastasia, and she says that the prince is already resting, so the lady does not need to disturb him now. The main character says that her brother's knight is not standing at the door of his room, which means that her brother is not sleeping, and she is worried about him. The guy then asks if she is really worried about him, or if she just needs to tell His Royal Highness what she heard there. The girl claims that she will come there again tomorrow morning anyway, so let him go. Well, the guy says that the princess must return after something, and screams at him not to disturb her. At this time, someone else approaches them and asks what is going on there. The knight immediately says that he is glad to see His Royal Highness, and the main character wishes her brother a good evening. The guy asks what they were just arguing about, and the girl understands that, frankly speaking, it was a bit unexpected, so she will have to find another chance to thank her brother tomorrow, after which she also says that the knight was afraid that she would disturb her brother if she came. The guy then turns to him and asks if this is so, to which the knight replies that yes, and thinks that the lady did not even take the opportunity to complain to the prince, and wonders if she really has something in mind. The girl at this time turns to her brother and asks what he is writing, and he replies that in the main instructions of God it is written that a secret is hidden in these walls, so he wants to decipher some of them to see if he can find the key to curing the epidemic. The main character asks if such information is really there, and the young man replies that he doesn't know, but even if there is only a glimmer of hope, he wants to try. The lady then thinks, does this wall really have some secret in the test? Then she claims that she will stay with her brother, and the guy claims that it will be boring and they may not even get any results. However, the lady claims that if there really is hope, many people can be saved, and the father and brother will not have to be sad anymore. The guy then says that the Lord God will definitely hear the pious motives of their Anastasia, and the girl says that she also wants him to hear the motives of her brother. The guy then says that yes, and the Lord will definitely protect his people. At this time, the guy with red hair turns to His Highness and asks if he will return to the epidemic area. The guy answers the state probably, and at least he should stay there for 2 months. The knight then cries out asking to go with him, but he replies that the situation in the epidemic zone is not very optimistic. And if he gets sick, how can he explain this to his brother and Earl Howard? The young man argues that his elder brother must hope that he can fulfill his duties and do something useful to share his concerns with His Highness. But the prince insists that his duty is to escort the princess safely back to the capital and that disaster relief is the job of others. The guy then wants to object, but the main character pulls her brother by the clothes. She then says that she will not be in danger if she returns with the temple carriage, but her brother claims that even if it works, their father will condemn him. Elle at this time thinks what the girl is doing. The guy also claims that he wants to contribute and is not afraid of this epidemic. He also tells His Highness that he will obey all his orders and will never cause trouble, to which he replies that it is good, and he will think about it. The main character then asks her brother to agree with Howard. The girl also understands that when the Duke is there, her safety is guaranteed, and 1 trip was enough, so she does not want more trouble. The guy then says okay and says that Jaeger is there to replace Mr. Howard and escort Princess Anastasia back, to which he replies that he understands and will do everything. A little while later, His Majesty is already reading the news and frowning and asking if it is true. The man replies that although the handwriting does not resemble Samuel's own, the letter bears the seal of the Ignatz family, which cannot be forged, and the minister has sent a knight to investigate the matter, so it will take a day or 2 to get an answer. The current queen's elder brother claims that it will take at least 5 days for the letter to be delivered to the temple, so His Majesty must make a decision in advance. The man claims that the epidemic is out of control and the disease has spread, so more people should be sent. The knight commander has already entered the epidemic zone, and who does he think he should send? The Empress's brother claims that if he remembers correctly, the temporarily requisitioned territories belong to 2 families, and according to common sense, people should be selected from these families. The blonde claims that tomorrow morning he will invite the marquises, and the 7th princess will return to the capital with the prince's cortege, and the rest will be accommodated in the temple since they are not allowed to move even half a step from there without a good reason. He also forbids revealing this conversation until the information is confirmed to be true, and the man says that he understood His Majesty, and it is also late, so let him take his leave. The butler at this time turns to the emperor and says that he is working hard, and the emperor claims that he is a little worried. The butler also says that His Royal Highness has always been weak and the sacrifices have injured his body, but he was able to bear the power of the Lord God even if this is the case, so he does not need to worry. The man then replies that he is right, and although he is truly worried about the prince, but he can only believe in him. A little while later, the guy asks Audie if what she said is true. The girl replies that she heard the conversation between her uncle and mother with her own ears, so how can it be a lie? But even if the family's reign remained in the temple, will the gift they prepared for this idiot be useful? Audie claims that Heidi was scared when she was caught off guard and did not expect the girl to do this. The girl also claims that she does not understand why this fool Adelaide went to the sacrifice himself. Prince claims that maybe it is to gain a good reputation. The girl wonders if he is talking about reputation and asks why her interlocutor doesn't go then. At this time, Joshua runs up to the guy with red hair and addresses him. Then he asks if the guy is also there to meet His Majesty. But Joshua claims that he heard that a letter was delivered to the palace yesterday and wanted to know if His Majesty mentioned his father. The guy with the red stripes realizes that this guy is the minister's only son, after which he claims that the Duke is fine because he is resettling people in the infected area, and it will also take a few days to return to Beijing. The guy also understands that, judging by the guy's appearance, it seems that the Duke's location is unknown. Well, the young man then wonders if the guy is also worried about whether the disease has spread to the second line of defense, to which the guy with red hair replies that everything is under control and there is no reason to worry because when he gets to his destination, he will immediately send him a letter with news about the Duke. At this time, the main character is heading somewhere in a carriage with her brother. On the way, she sees a woman with her child who do not look very well. The young lady then asks her brother how many victims there are in the affected area, and he replies that due to the epidemic, many cities are suffering from a lack of food, and the disease has already spread to the places they have already visited. They haven't reached the center of the affected area yet, and the center is a real hell. The main character understands that this is the first time she sees something like this in comparison to her past life. It seems to her that her brother wants to decipher the message from the temple, after which she tells her brother that she cannot allow this and also must be the one who makes the sacrifice. The new result is that he suffers. The young man claims that the lady is still young, and how can a brother be afraid of pain, but allow a small child to suffer? Well then, the lady says that the father and the young man claim that when he was in the affected area, he could have accidentally become infected, so the sacrifice cannot be postponed, and the father is afraid of the situation getting worse. The young man also puts his hand on his sister's head and says that her father loves her very much, but simply does not know how to express his feelings. And in a letter a few days ago, didn't he ask if everything was okay with her? The lady understands that if this were so, then the only thing that worries her father is his brother, and he said this only to calm her down. After which the two move on. The girl also claims that there are a few words that she knows. The young man then asks what she just said. The main character replies that she knows a few words on the stone wall, but is unsure whether she can help. Since her brother is convinced that it might be possible to find the key to the epidemic, she also wants to try to do something if he doesn't mind. The guy then becomes a little tense and claims that he saw with his own eyes how many dead bodies were burned every day, but he could not do anything. So he puts his hopes in divine power. He also asks if the lady is ready to believe it. The girl cries out that yes, and she admires her brother because he always desperately tried to protect his people, and also she just doesn't want others to know that she understands these words. The young man then asks if she is afraid of facing envy or being used. The people answer that yes, after which the guy says that if she really has talent, then their father will definitely pay more attention to her, and her days in the palace will not be so difficult. The main character then understands that the power of the king and the divine village complement each other, but at the same time they compete with each other, and if her father finds out about her abilities, he will use them as before. And it will be very difficult to find the Book of Prophecies. The girl then says that she thinks that her brother is right and everything is fine, and also no one will intimidate her because her brother is so kind to her. The guy then smiles and says that the girl really is still such a child, and the main character wonders if her brother will keep her secret, to which he replies that if the father asks directly, then how can he keep the secret? The girl replies that her brother might say that he simply guessed and she doesn't know all the words, so they won't be revealed then. The prince then says okay, and the girl says that they need to seal the promises with pinkies, after which they do so. At this time in the palace, a servant addresses His Majesty and claims that a secret letter from the prince has arrived. The man wonders why the letter has arrived. After all, they left the temple 9 days ago and were supposed to return today, but when he finishes reading the letter, then he screams that this is nonsense. The butler asks if something really happened under the temple, and the emperor orders that someone be sent immediately for Marquis Carmen and Howard, so that they may come to him. The butler claims that the two marquises should have already left with the team. However, the man screams for them to send someone to report his order, and even let him personally catch up and tell them to find a way to bring the prince and Anastasia back after arriving in the infected territory. If they do not want to return, then let them tie them up and bring them by force, and if there is a lack of strength, then it all depends on the butler, and let him do it, to which the man agrees, and states that he is leaving immediately. The butler also understands that without a special reason, he would not have been sent as a guard, and judging by the expression on His Majesty's face, something serious must have happened. At this time, the man sits down on the dresser and says, "What are these children doing?" The main character is approaching the danger zone at this time. One of the servants understands that according to the rules, the team will carefully inspect the transport for drugs. If he is in the cart beforehand, he will get mixed up with the medical team and they won't find him. The guy understands that when he entered the kill zone, he could not get a pass, and the Marquis will not allow him, so he left. The young man also looks at the badge and understands that he cannot allow this to happen and cannot sit idly by and wait, because he must make sure for himself that his father is safe. The main character at this time looks at the situation in the city. When she and her brother go out, one of the servants claims that they will be safe in the temple. There is too high a level of danger there, and if something happens to members of the imperial family, they will have to bear responsibility. Anastasia's brother says that it is good and offers to first accompany his sister to a safe place, and he will go to inspect the church. He also claims that at this time the Duke should be in church and he needs to go. Well, one of the servants claims that he will go with him, and the guy with red hair does the same. The prince then turns to Elvis and asks if he has nothing better to do since he decided to go with him. The guy claims that he would like to greet the Duke and send a letter to his brother because cousin Joshua is very worried. The prince says that it is good and says that Edmund will escort the princess and with Elvis he is safe, so the knight need not worry. To which he agrees, and at that very moment a bird falls at the feet of the young lady. Elle asks the commander if the disease spreads to animals, and he replies that such a phenomenon is currently unknown, but to exclude this possibility, the Duke ordered a ban on the fortification of local food in the affected area and the extermination of all unhealthy livestock. The main character then asks if an epidemic has started there, and the prince states that initially anyone leaving the affected area should be quarantined for 5 days to ensure that there are no symptoms of infection, but the people there can't take care of themselves, and he thinks that the people who carried the disease beyond the line of defense are a food delivery cart. After he left the temple, he had a premonition that even more difficulties might arise there. The main character understands that the high priest did not hesitate to use the sacrifice to receive a revelation, the content of which is known only to him and his brother. And apparently the prophecy is very serious, since it is kept secret. At this time, the prince tells the lady not to be afraid because they will win, and the girl agrees. She then turns to her brother and states that she wants to do everything in her power for the sick. Anastasia understands that in her past life, she did not pay attention to those who fought the epidemic, but this time, she will be one of them. A few days ago, the prince gave a letter to Jaeger and told him to deliver it to his father. The main character asked her brother to take her with him because she wants to try to do something to help. The knight then thinks that even if she goes, she won't be able to do anything to help the victims, but at least she has courage and sincerity, so maybe he has seen her too often before. Inside the church, the prince realizes that it is rare to see anyone along the way, because all the patients are there, and there are even more of them than he expected. The guy claims that many patients began to rot because of Togo, who did not receive timely treatment, and if the knight is uncomfortable, he can wait for him in a spare room. But he replies that he is fine. The prince then asked if the boy was already used to seeing this, because he had heard from his father that he had participated in many fights with the Lord while at school. The red-haired boy replies that he is not used to it, and his father once said that the next step in developing a habit is to form a vision. By respecting other people's lives, you will not lose this humanity on the battlefield. The prince claims that this is well said, so he cannot abandon those who are trying to survive. Elle says that he admires him very much for this as well as his royal majesty. He does not necessarily stand so close to falling into eternal sleep, but he fights for life and ordinary people more than anyone else. Therefore, the prince is salvation in their eyes, but the guy replies that no, and it is not he who is their salvation. At this time, someone claims that drug development is underway there. But the guy with black hair only wonders if Duke Inats is inside. One of them claims that 10 days ago, the Duke had a high fever, and he could not say whether he was infected or not. Since then, he has not been seen in the safe zone. The main character understands that on the same day, the epidemic got out of control. One of the servants at this time claims that the Duke is in the church, and the main character understands that she remembers that those infected with the plague either quickly recovered on the 10th day or they became worse. At this time, someone else claims that the Duke has ordered that no one except people with permission be allowed into any safe zone and that maximum security be ensured there. The doctor also asks to calm down because there is a separate room in the church, and the teacher's condition has improved recently. The man then looks at the girl and asks who it is, and the knight replies that it is Her Highness and that she has come to the epidemic area with the prince and will also live in a safe area. Anastasia understands that in her past life at this time, the Duke used his red liquid to develop a vaccine, but the current situation is different from the previous one, and the girl thinks what to do. Perhaps she can find the man who replaced the Duke earlier to complete the vaccine experiment, who will have the opportunity to distribute the medicine to Togo to prevent the outbreak of the epidemic throughout the world. But the doctor at this time asks why I regret going there alone and whether the prince went to church. The guy asks if there is danger there, and his interlocutor answers that there is not, and he is just worried about the teacher's well-being because he always tries to be strong. The main character then asks if the Duke is his teacher, and the doctor replies that it is simply a tribute of respect, and there are many places where he wants to study, but the Duke will never allow him to become his student. At this time, the main character is thinking whether Clovis will be the right person. At this time in the Marquis's mansion, someone cries out to Joshua, but he tells his lordship that he cannot afford it. The red-haired guy claims that he knows he's worried about the Duke, but he promised to text him as soon as he met him, so why did he follow them secretly? Joshua claims that he has another reason to meet his father. The guy is then about to scream, "What?" But someone else stops him and tells the guy to tell. Joshua claims that the prince took the risk and came to the affected area because his father had proposed the idea of developing a vaccine, and he needed someone to test it. The experiment should not stop because only a vaccine can end the epidemic. The man asks if he means to say that he can replace the Duke and complete the experiment, to which he replies that he can. However, the other guy claims that he thinks the Duke will find a more competent doctor to complete the task, and he cannot allow him to go to the epidemic zone. Joshua cries out that he knows that many doctors are more professional than him, but they will not be able to continue the experiment without receiving an order from His Majesty. But the guy with red hair claims that he himself said that the prince is in the contaminated zone, which means his orders are also valid. Another man at this time asks what he thinks about this, after which someone enters the room. It turns out to be the butler, and he claims that since Ignaz Jr. has arrived there, he can be allowed to see the Duke. The guy also tells them to be sure that he will personally deliver him to his destination, and having received instructions from the prince as well as the Duke, will follow their further orders. The man at this time says that he is actually very curious why the guy does not have an order from His Majesty from there. He answers that he was only thinking about how to quickly drive them away, therefore they ask for forgiveness for the oversight. The guy with red hair at this time turns to Joshua and states that now they have vouched for him so that he can go. The young man is very happy about this, and also thanks His Excellency, Lord Carmen. The main character at this time heads down the corridor, after which she sees her brother and asks if he saw the Duke and if he is feeling better. The prince replies that the situation is not very optimistic, and yesterday his temperature dropped, but today his condition has worsened sharply, and the disease is spreading faster than he thinks. Anastasia asks how this could happen, and thinks that this is completely different from the situation in her past life. The guy says that tomorrow morning he should invite the Count to his office as well as the senior officer in charge of the army. The main character at this time thinks that it seems the victim played his role, and now everything that happens in the future will not be so easy to predict. At this time, the prince asks whether they have already met with the Count, to which the servant replies that yes, the Count did not say anything about it. Basically, after this, he claims that the Duke ordered to keep it a secret from the department, and he is the only hope in the eyes of the patients. Therefore, Edmund should leave and go to the western region immediately to help him find out if this place is safe. The knight asks if he plans to send Her Highness there too, and he replies that the sooner the better. The brunette claims that the Count thinks that they should send an army and knights as soon as possible to escort the princess back to the palace, but the main character claims that she does not want to. The guy then replies that it is too late, and he has a premonition that a real nightmare is coming. Anastasia thinks that this is impossible, and also that it is impossible to leave so quickly. At this time, someone is heading on horses. Joshua realizes that after hearing the gunshot, the chase has become more intense, and the butler says that the Kingdom of Hades chose this time for war, even if the main target for starting the war is not there, and the epidemic zone will become the most dangerous place. The guy then claims that even if they return to the territory now, they will not be able to cross the front safely. The Kingdom of Hades planned to set aside several important territories so that people who were threatened by drought and disease would be put into eternal sleep there. If they rely only on these knights, there is no guarantee that they will be able to deliver Joshua back safely. The butler also understands that His Majesty sent 2 marquises at the same time, and he is also worried about this because he said that these are guesses. Well, then he claims that their destination will be the most dangerous city, and let the guy know that it is hell on earth, which is much scarier than he imagines, and if he still insists on going forward, then there will be no turning back. He also says that the war has not yet spread, and this is the last chance to retreat. But Joshua asks what about him, and if the Lord still wants to go there, to which he replies that he must deliver news of the war. The blonde-haired young man cries out that no shots were heard in the epidemic zone, and His Highness does not even suspect that the war has begun, and they are the best messengers because no one can be faster than them. The guy also claims that he believes in the abilities of adults but wants to be close to his father. The young man also cries out that the family Karaman is fighting the enemy for survival, and the Ignatz family will never run away from the plague. The butler then thinks about this child, and one of the servants asks if they should go back. The guy then says that full speed ahead because they need to arrive in the epidemic zone before sunset. At this time in the barracks of the Kingdom of Hades, a guy enters a tent and a man asks where he has been, once he returned only now. The young man replies that he just saw 2 rats running away and tried to catch up with them. Then his interlocutor replies that he sees how he is laughing happily, and that means he caught up. But the guy replies that nothing like that. But he met a very interesting boy, so he decided to let him live. The man then says that he hopes His Highness will allow this news to spread at least 3 days earlier, and the other asks what he is afraid of. After which the man suggests talking about what makes them boring and why this suicide bomber interested him. His Highness replies that this little fellow has a hair color that is extremely rare in Arthur's kingdom, and in addition he even saw a little dog that does not leave its owner's side for a single step. The man asks if he means Carmen, to which the guy replies that he does, and that is the one they are most interested in. After which his interlocutor cries out that he has been waiting for revenge for 11 years, and the guy says that compared to this snack, doesn't it seem to him that there are more delicious lambs in the cage? The man claims that it is simply a lost lamb that has escaped from its cage and will soon obediently return, and he will take their lives. A little while later, the main character knocks on the door, after which the prince asks if she has come to say goodbye since she is leaving for the West End in an hour. And by order of the father, a shelter was built. All children under the age of 12 living in the epidemic zone are now there, and there is also an army for protection, and no one who is not infected or anyone else will be able to get there. The girl understands that, judging by the behavior of her brother, he noticed signs of war. Then he asks if it is safe there. The doctor claims that they are in the center of the affected area, and there is nothing more dangerous than this place. After which the lady tells her brother that she is not afraid of danger and wants to be near him. Then the knight says that Her Highness is still young and very important, but the girl says that when her brother was on the battlefield with their father, he was no older than her, and besides, she cannot hide and watch as everyone fights the disease. The goalkeeper at this time thinks that these are the duties of a prince and they must be fulfilled, but the girl is a princess, and she does not need to make such sacrifices at all. The guy is then about to say something, but the main character interrupts him and says that her brother said that the Duke is everyone's hope. So people need to see that there is hope in front of them, and that she is also a member of the royal family, and can also do something meaningful, and she also doesn't understand why everyone puts all sorts of burdens on her brother, because he's already too tired. And even if she can only help a little, she asks to let her stay. The girl understands that people who died in the past are still alive now, so she cannot remain inactive. At this time the servants turn to His Highness, and he claims that he understands, and if the lady wants to stay to help patients with her own hands, then he respects her choice. Anastasia tells her brother that she is not afraid, and thinks that she needs to survive because she cannot please her father, and she will try to do everything possible to destroy the plague. At this time, the prince turns to the knight and tells him to take the princess to the church for a walk, to which he agrees. The doctor then tells His Highness that this child is very similar to him, and the boy asks if he knows what the count was asking. He asked if he was afraid of death since the guy was so young. The doctor replied that he was fulfilling his mission, and even if all the voices of the opposition were ringing in his ears, he would not give up on it and would continue to protect. A little while later, Joshua is breathing heavily and asks if they are finally there. The butler then asks the Duke if everything is okay, and he replies that he is fine, and he wants to see his father first. His interlocutor replies that His Highness must be in church. Therefore, he asks to be allowed to go with him, but the guy replies that no, and let him immediately go to His Highness and not pay attention to him. After which the butler tells the knights to follow Mr. Ignatz, and they agree. The butler at this time turns around and heads to the place where the prince should be. At this time, someone tells the children to guess which of his hands has a candy, and those who can will get it. After which one of them says that it is in the left hand, and the guy opens it. After which the children see nothing there, and he claims that he will give them another chance, because maybe they will be able to guess. Then the children immediately scream that she is in her right hand, and the man understands that following the instructions of the gods, he arrived in the epidemic zone but did not expect to accidentally stumble upon a church with children. After which he gives out candy and suggests counting and finding out who guessed correctly. After which the children immediately say how many sweets there are and rejoice. But one lady stands aside. The priest then asks her why she doesn't go for candy and whether she likes sweets, but the girl replies that she does, however she misses her mom and dad even more. The priest says that even if this is so, she must eat a candy a day, and when the candy runs out, mom and dad will come for her and take her home. After which he hands her a bunch of candy, and the girl asks if her brother is telling the truth. The guy answers that he is. I also wonder if the girl realized that if she folds a star out of wrapping paper and makes a wish at night while looking at the sky, then she might dream of her mother. After which one of the children claims that he wants to tell his mother that his older brother who can do magic gave him candy. And the guy strokes their heads and says that they should be obedient because mom and dad are already on their way to them. It's just a long road, and it will take more time. The girl then says that she wants the stars to thank the princess who came to the epidemic area for protecting them all, and they will all wait obediently. The priest at this time thinks whether the girl is talking about Her Highness, and also thinks whether the princess will bring salvation. The main character at this time heads to the church, after which she stands in a puddle and the knight moves her away a little and suggests that she be more careful. The main character thanks him but then claims that it is already winter and wonders why it is raining there. Elle replies that when winter came, the plague slowed down, and the girl says that perhaps Hades is waiting dimes to attack. The prince asks what the princess said, and she replies that she said nothing of the sort, and thinks that she has forgotten that he does not yet know what is about to happen. The girl also looks at the horses and asks why her father's personal knight is there. The guy with red hair then turns to Joshua and asks what is going on. The main character asks if he is there too, and the guy replies that he is not sure. Not many people have this hair color, so it must be him. Anastasia then goes after him and claims that when they catch up, they will find out who it is. Well then, the lady hears someone asking, really they said that the princess who arrived there is the very child of destiny. Hey, it is because of her that the epidemic happened only in their kingdom. Then someone says that yes, and for 1,000 years the kingdom had mild weather, but disasters began to happen almost every year after the birth of this princess. He also heard that 9 years ago a snow disaster, which was rare and happened once in 1,000 years, happened exactly on her birthday. And after all, her birthday is coming soon, so someone asks if a new disaster will happen. Then someone else says that the Lord never told about the daughter of destiny, and Princess Anastasia is an ordinary girl, so whether it is a natural disaster or a genetic catastrophe, but the blame should not be placed on an innocent child. The main character then grabs the guy by the clothes and tells him not to say her name. The knight then wonders if the girl is afraid that he will intentionally put her in an awkward position. She still cares about those peaceful residents. The girl then moves away and also thinks if there are people left that she wants to protect, if she enters this door, she will not be able to stay. But do they need her, and this is all her whim? At this time, someone else says that he does not know why she insists on staying, and only heard how Her Highness helped them save people from falling into eternal sleep. Someone else says that she is brave, and he doesn't know how much courage it took her to decide to stay there. The knight then says that when the plague ends, the inhabitants will remember everything it did for them. After this, the main character thinks that this is why her brother asked her to come there. At this time, the knight says that the Duchess is now next to His Highness, and if the lady is afraid she can take his hand, After which the main character replies that they will go together and turns around and starts walking. At this time, the guy is thinking whether the girl can really be useful inside, and if she runs away in front of the patient, then won't this cause even more indignation among the people who hate her? The main character at this time goes inside and realizes that this is a church, but will her immersion into eternal sleep be the last straw to take away all hope from them? At this time, Joshua turns to Her Highness and asks how she feels. The girl replies that everything is fine, and she is fine. Well, then the guy with red hair asks why Joshua is there. The guy says that his father said that he was fine and that he came there to join the research institute and contribute to the development of medicine. The knight claims that the news that the Duke was seriously ill was strictly confidential and he almost let it slip. At this time, the main character thinks that she feels so awkward and sad only standing there, she finally understands. How much can she do to help? At this moment, the butler enters the room and addresses Mr. Ignatz. He asks if he has yet visited the Duke, to which he replies that he has not, and asks why he is interested. The butler states that His Highness requests that he visit him immediately, after which the guy replies that it's good, and he understood, and the main character asks His Excellency if something really happened. The girl also understands that Amos always stayed half a step away from his father, so how did he end up there? The boy claims that he cannot go beyond his authority to tell her about this, and His Highness will personally tell Her Highness later. The main character realizes that it looks like the war has started and the kingdom shouldn't have attacked until the second plague outbreak, but now they've done it 3 months ahead of schedule. The knight at this time turns to Her Highness and asks if they are returning, to which the girl replies that yes, and they will go back. At this time, the man heads to the plantation, but at that very moment, someone addresses him as a brother. The man asks if this is the queen, and what does she want to know? The woman claims that she heard from the knight that her brother asked for an audience a few hours ago, and why he so wants to see His Majesty. The man claims that he has important news, so he will not gossip with the queen and asks to be allowed to take his leave. The woman then says yes, but is angry. A little while later, the queen's brother comes to His Majesty and greets him. But the blonde suggests doing without formalities and asks what happened that made him ask to meet in the middle of the night. His interlocutor replies that he believes that the other kingdom will soon start a war. Well, His Majesty claims that this is impossible because Hades is a land of ice and snow, and even if they want to start a war, they will definitely choose winter. The queen's brother replies that it should be so. However, at present, the princess and the prince are both in the epidemic zone, and if the prince is lured into a trap and put into eternal sleep, then Hades has reason to start the war ahead of time. The emperor then asks what news the man has received, and he replies that it is just a small piece of news, and he thinks that if nothing happens, a report will come soon. The man then asks what about the Duke? And his interlocutor is only interested in whether His Majesty will take care of the means to achieve the goal, because he cannot help but know how it works. The emperor claims that the prince is already in the epidemic zone, and if he does not fight, the civilians will lose trust in the royal family, and Amos guarantees his safety. The prince at this time claims that the arrival of the symbol of God will be the best way to stimulate the common people. Well, at that very moment, someone knocks on the door. The guy tells that person to come in. Then Joshua comes in with the butler. The prince turns to Amos and says that he should look at the letter, which he just received from General Lyle. When the butler takes this letter, he sees that it is written there that the Empire of Hades has decided to officially introduce troops into the Empire of Arthur, the essence of today. The blonde claims that the prince of another kingdom has always been an extremely serious opponent, while the butler claims that he is more interested in how Hades knew that His Highness had visited the area of the epidemic. A little while later, someone tells Her Majesty's brother that she has asked him to stay, and the queen invites him to visit the Florentine palace. The man replies that it is fine, and he will arrive tomorrow, after which he thinks that she is behaving strangely, and it seems to him that he should go to this meeting. A little while later, the man is already sitting in the palace, and the empress says that he looks very tired, and also asks if he had rested last night. She also claims that the tea contains calming lavender, so she suggests drinking it. The man only claims that the prince's location is under strict guard, and the other kingdom had no chance to learn news of His Highness's arrival in the epidemic zone. The woman wonders if he is really accusing her, and if her brother really thinks the state and she betrayed Adelaide. The man replies that she just needs to tell him yes or no, to which the woman replies yes. Her brother is surprised by this, and the lady wonders if she can hide anything from her smart brother. Her again and again not to touch the prince, but the lady claims that they are the only ones with each other and are family with her brother, so he cannot get rid of everything she has done, and if His Majesty finds out, then only he and she, but the entire Capel family, will disappear. The man claims that she really deprives him of the opportunity to tell about it. Well, he would like to remind that he did not try to control the mess she made, and the lady dared to threaten the prince's life, so the whole family will be buried with her because of her stupidity. The man also tells her to keep a cool head, and what he taught her, let her do it for herself. After she had harmed the prince, her little trick would not escape His Majesty's careful investigation, and their family's life will be completely destroyed. The woman thinks that this is impossible until the prince falls into eternal sleep, after which he says that if the prince remains alive, the kingdom will not withdraw its troops, and this guarantees that all the injured people will recover. The Empress's brother cries out what she said. The girl will leave. What she thought her memories will bring her countless comforts. But when she actually got into this hell, she realized that changes can be so fast and scary. In just 5 days, this place turned into the most dangerous place on Earth that she could remember hearing about. It's a terrible place, and she can't imagine anything worse. The prince claims that regardless of the conspiracy behind the incident, he and Anastasia are a symbol of the royal family and cannot leave until it is all over. Joshua at this time tells His Majesty that he wants to know how his father is feeling now. The doctor wants to answer something. However, the knight understands that this is not good and immediately grabs the door handle, after which he opens it, and the prince asks if this is Anastasia and also why she is there. The girl replies that she thought of something very strange, and so she wants to tell her brother about it. The guy suggests talking about it, and the lady claims that common sense dictates that the plague gets worse in the summer and gradually subsides when the temperature drops. But the current one did not change in the summer but suddenly got out of control shortly before autumn. Perhaps it is not without reason that she thinks that it is necessary to start acting before winter sets in. Anastasia understands that in her previous life, the development of a vaccine did not begin precisely because of an incorrect assessment of the epidemic which resulted in it spreading throughout the kingdom. At this time, the prince asks the count what he thinks, and he answers that it is so. Joshua claims that it is because of this incident that he wants to see his father's developments and asks His Highness to allow him. Then someone claims that winter is the battlefield for Hades. If the mortality rate continues to rise, it will get out of control, so he is willing to accompany the young master to try it. The prince claims that the epidemic policy has always been focused on treatment, and he is afraid that he cannot provide them with manpower at the moment. The guy claims that even if there are only 2 people, he will definitely complete the task. The red-haired guy at this time tells His Highness that he is also willing to do his best, but the butler cries out that it is not his duty. The main character also says that she will go with them. But then everyone looks at her and asks if she is the same, after which the prince smiles, and also agrees. He claims that Hades wants to stop them from destroying the plague, so how can he let him succeed? In 5 days he will go to the battlefield and leaves it to them, but his servant tells His Highness to wait because he cannot. The guy then only turns to Anastasia and claims that she should remember that she is a princess, to which you respond that yes, and she will dedicate her life to preserving the reputation of the royal family. The guy then thanks her, and the girl understands that she followed the will of the Lord God and went there step by step, so she can no longer look back. She can sacrifice her life for the sake of truth or salvation, but she regrets that she cannot put the interests of the royal family above all else like her brother. A little while later, someone asks if her colleague has heard about the general from the kingdom of Hades and the princess with pure white hair. The other lady then asks if she's talking about that crazy guy, and the guy with the dark hair thinks about Ace Stewart Hades, and he realizes that he has been waiting for him for many years. It is rare that his old friend participates in this Colosseum, so how can he miss a good show? The main character is heading somewhere at this time, and the doctor claims that the pharmaceutical project has been progressing slowly since the teacher got sick, and most of the doctors went to church by 5 with him. 9 people continue to be responsible for the development of drugs and the development of a vaccine. But so far there are only 4 of them. The man also points to the books and claims that these are all protocols for testing the vaccine development. Some of the teacher's ideas are also present there. The red-haired knight at this time asks what they will do, and the man replies that these containers need to be cleaned and disinfected again, because this is a priority task, and in addition, after the experiment begins, they may be required to help with delivery. The young man with red hair then asks if there is any other work, and Joshua claims that he did say that his cousin shouldn't have been taken because he's afraid that he's breaking through. The guy screams that besides this, he can do other things like moving things. Joshua claims that they will have to work hard in the future, and the main character suggests starting already. From that day on, she began to help in the laboratory, and Brother Prince went to the battlefield and temporarily became a high-ranking person in charge of the epidemic. The Duke's condition did not worsen, but there were still no signs of improvement. The doctor turns to the guy and tells him not to worry because they still have time. But then someone knocks on the door, and the girl realizes that after Howard broke 3 checks, Joshua kicked him out. He goes to church and sometimes comes to them after he finishes his work there. Anastasia turns to the guy and asks if today's business is finished, to which he replies that yes and asks if everything is okay with them. The girl claims that Joshua seems to blame himself and also that he has not rested for several days. The red-haired knight looks at him and then suggests that Her Highness leave first, after which they do so. Then the boys claim that for the last few days he has often thought about giving up. Anastasia asks what he said, and Elle claims that he looks at dead bodies every day, which are taken out in a carriage, and it is as if he sees non-living bodies from the battlefield. And he, like a coward, can only watch as people fall into eternal sleep one after another. But he can do nothing about it. Anastasia argues that this is not the standard for proving bravery, and that only by living can they do everything they can for their patients. So aren't they just working so hard to keep anyone from falling into eternal sleep right now? But the guy claims that their efforts were unsuccessful and the medications do not help. The main character asks what he is talking about and whether the medicine to alleviate the condition did not help. Elle claims that yesterday the Duke personally approached the patient before he fell into a coma, and he said that the disease has changed and the medicine will last for at least half a month, so if there are no new medicines... Well, at that very moment, the guy with blonde hair asks what the guy said. And did his father really fall into a coma? Elle then wants to say that it is not so, but Joshua asks to say how his father is now. At this time, the doctor turns to Master Howard and asks to take Her Highness to the room since he and Joshua still have to discuss some issues concerning the experiment. At this time, the main character also turns to the knight and offers to go first, to which he agrees. The guy with blonde hair asks him to wait, but the main character pulls him and realizes that it seems the Count already knew about it. Judging by the knight's reaction, the situation could be very serious, so Joshua couldn't be allowed to continue asking questions. At this point, the guy falls down completely, and the man screams for them to quickly bring a doctor and run to the medicine cabinet, after which the guy closes his eyes and thinks about what is happening. A little while later, the main character enters the room with the knight. He claims that it is all his fault. However, the girl says that sooner or later he would have found out about it anyway, and Joshua is very strong, so everything will be fine with him. But Elle says that the lady does not understand. After all, he is cursed with the red liquid, so he is in poor health, and the reason they let him stay there is not only because he is the only son of the Duke, but also because he is not afraid. Hades is a land that is cursed by nature, and the locals can only survive on a snowy field. Once they leave the snow and ice for more than 3 months, their body begins to deteriorate, leading to an eternal sleep. Children born to a woman from Hades and a man from other countries will also be cursed for life. This guy's mother's homeland is Hades, and it's no secret, so most likely the pain he experienced, probably more serious than most of the inhabitants of Hades. At this time, you hostel on the border, someone screams how hot it is there. The guy also wonders if they can't say send more ice packs, but the man replies that he suggested that His Majesty go back for a while because there is no snow or ice in this kingdom. The young man then says that he has already seen a new victim, so how can he force him to give in, and his interlocutor asks if the guy really hates him that much. The guy wonders why he should hate him, because this guy is a wonderful person, and he just wants to put him into eternal sleep, like his interlocutor wanted to do with Amos. The man claims that compared to his goal, putting him into eternal sleep seems pointless. After which, the guy with blonde hair claims that in his opinion the village has left and interest is above power, and if he gets the prince's head, then what kind of reward will his father give him? The man then wonders if they need the prince's head, to which the guy starts laughing and claims that the prince's head just sounds good. And old Ignatz couldn't save these unfortunate beetles, and his pure gray-haired son can't save anyone. But let the man not worry, because until this boy plunges into eternal sleep from illness, no one will remain alive. At this time, the young man feels very bad, and the doctor says that a little more and he might never wake up again. Joshua asks how so, and if he can explain to him why he is next to him. The doctor states that he thinks the young master should explain it to him first. The boy asks what exactly. And the doctor replies that he saw everything and asks if he really wants to experiment on himself, and there are enough civilians there to be subjects of clinical trials or experimenters and troops stationed in the epidemic zone and even him. Therefore, the guy cannot risk his body alone. The young man then wonders if you are equivalent to the life of the Count in his eyes. But the doctor turns to him and claims that he has a huge responsibility on his shoulders, and if something happens to him, the development of the vaccine will be suspended indefinitely. They are just one step away from success, so they can no longer establish themselves. Many people count on salvation. The guy at this time thinks about his father and the princess, after which he claims that he understood and decided that this will be the path he has chosen, and he will finish what he started. At this time, General Lyle runs into the room with the princess. The knight asks if something happened in their temple, and he replies that it was the guard assigned to the temple. Anastasia asks if he is talking about the high priest, to which he replies that he has not sent a messenger to convey the will of God, so he asks to come and listen. The girl agrees, but thinks that the news that the kingdom of Hades is going to attack them spread yesterday throughout the eastern district. And this district is now in the grip of panic, so the temple's messengers arrived just in time. Some people claimed that God was going to tell them his will and give them a blessing. The girl understands that the coming of the Lord's will is the most important thing, but neither the Count nor Joshua came. The lady wonders if Joshua's condition is really that serious. The guy with red hair at this time turns to Her Highness and asks if he can visit Joshua after all this is over. The girl replies that it is fine, and she will go with him. But the knight thinks that she did not rest all day and came there for the first time, so it seems that he really blamed her in vain before because she is not such an irresponsible person. At this time, the girl comes out to the messenger and claims that Anastasia is Yakind Arthur. She came to listen to his will, after which the man claims that the man who performed the miracle has arrived, and death is about to dissipate, and also God will be with his people. Anastasia then turns to the people and claims that Arthur's family will follow the will of the Lord until the fog completely clears. After which the people rejoice and glorify the kingdom of Arthur. The priest also hands over to Her Highness the instructions of the god, and he claims that the truth is shown on the map at the end, so he wishes her luck. The girl thanks him, but wonders if this will be about the main principles of the Book of Prophecies. One of the people at this time looks at the girl and thinks what a coincidence this is, because it seems like the miracle he is looking for is already there. The prince at this time asks if God sent the oracle specifically for Anastasia. The queen's brother replies that perhaps he was trying to give a hint for His Highness, but he is no longer in the epidemic zone. Then the guy says that it is not surprising that Ryder will decide to stay there, but he too will soon leave Anastasia. The man claims that the meaning of the word God should be confirmed by the red liquid to the royal family, and that the common people will feel better when they see the royal family around them. The guy claims that they should try hard for them. And the man claims that he also has a personal letter from the priest, and this is good news. Her Highness and her companions who came to the temple received the blessing of the Lord, and that they would not be infected, even if they were in a dangerous area. And since God can send such blessings, perhaps he has some purpose and he grants salvation. It seems that the hopeless situation will soon end. At this time, a test tube breaks in the laboratory. The main character asks to be allowed to help. However, the boy screams at her not to come near. The doctor also tells Her Highness that these things are very dangerous. So let them do everything. He also wonders if the lady can go for a walk temporarily, because this happens often, and they can manage without her. Then Anastasia says she's going to go for a walk, and the doctor says it's too early, so he suggests they clean up and rest. The main character understands that Joshua is in a terrible state, and that day she and Howard were going to talk, but were warned by the Count. And today his condition is worsening, but he still returns to the laboratory even if the experiment is urgent. He can't sacrifice his life. When the lady closes the door, she hears the doctor asking, "Was the reagent that the guy just broke yesterday's reagent?" Joshua replies that the day the doctor saw that he wanted to vaccinate himself, but in reality he wanted to try it with his own red liquid. And he thought that the time of the war with Hades was not chosen by chance, as if the epidemic was under their control, and why were they not afraid that the plague was a parasite of the inhabitants of their country? The guy also claims that he is half of Hades' people and wants to use his red liquid to see if it can destroy the virus. The main character thinks that this assumption is crazy, and he believes that Hades' red liquid may be immune to the virus. The doctor at this time asks if it is effective, and Joshua replies that it is compared to the red liquid taken from recovered patients. His red liquid has a different effect, and he thinks that if they were Hades' people, they would have suffered from the plague. And at the moment, they can only look for the serum because the extraction rate is still very low, and the success of the vaccine is nowhere to be seen. Well, if he uses it, the doctor then says that definitely not, and he will never let the guy bet his life. Joshua claims that he must, and the main character wonders if he really wants to infect himself and then treat himself with an effective serum, but if he fails, he will fall into eternal sleep. Anastasia also notices that her pocket watch is glowing and that it had been silent for so long. But finally there is movement, so she needs to find the map the priest gave her yesterday. At this time, someone looks at this map and claims that this must be the guidance of God. The guy claims she's a princess, but she doesn't even have a guard knight to watch over the room, so it looks like she'll have to take the map. The main character walking down the corridor thinks that it is quite creepy there, so she should have called the knight before going. But at that very moment, the girl hears someone laughing and screaming for that person to show up right now, after which her interlocutor claims that he is the devil who devours children. The girl screams at him to stop joking and thinks that she seems to have heard that voice somewhere. The lady also screams at him not to pretend to be a fool because she is not afraid of him. But at that very moment, the guy approaches her and greets the princess who loves to walk with dog holes. The main character immediately asks why he is there, and the guy replies that he has even been to the palace. So is coming to an ordinary church really something strange? The young man also says that he must thank Her Highness's little knight for allowing him to enter her room for the map, and then he asks the dear princess to let him play a game with her instead of the knight. She just thought of Anastasia, realizes that he must just be pursuing the same goal with her, and he has no evil intent towards her. If she refuses him, it will be difficult for her to leave safely from there, so it is better to first agree with him, and then the girl says that as her knight he must protect her. The guy replies that of course last time Her Highness told him where to go, so he is still indebted to her. At this time, the guy thinks that this little girl is not as simple as she seems at first glance, and that he needs to pay more attention. Perhaps she will be able to find some clues that he could not notice. Because of this time, she should have already revealed some secrets. The doctor at this time, he claims that he is worried about what if he allows the young master to continue in the same spirit. He will start doing even more dangerous things, and should they take some measures in advance? The man coughs at this time and claims that this child likes to take risks and sometimes behaves extremely, so he is always worried about him. The doctor slips a paper under the door and claims that he found a hidden recording in his room, which is a backup copy of the transcript. The man looks at her and is surprised, and the guy says that's how he sees it. He assumes that the guy wants to turn the virus into a biochemical weapon, which is only effective against Hades' empire. Joshua takes one of the books at this time, and he thinks that the Count has repeatedly objected, but is there any hope for this idea, and he only has half the red liquid, and from Hades, so if this idea fails, he will be in danger. But then the guy shakes his head and realizes that he cannot doubt. After all, Princess Anastasia is there, and he cannot harm her, after which the young man burns one of the papers. Anastasia at this time goes with the guy and wonders if this is what is drawn on the map. The young man answers that there must be some mechanism that will allow them to follow the secret path. However, since this is a test created by God, it should not be so easy for him to find the mechanism. The girl wonders if he is talking about the mechanism, and she claims that it seems like there is a stone protruding there, after which she presses on it. The door opens at that moment and the girl says what she found. The guy is surprised after that, and she wonders if this could be the very power approved by God. The girl then asks her older brother if he will never let her go forward, to which he replies that of course not. And how can a beautiful princess walk on an unknown road ahead of a knight, after which he also thinks that it is more difficult to fool her than he thought. As they move on, the guy says that it is so dark there that you can hardly see anything. Anastasia thinks that everyone knows that the priest gave her the card, and if he steals at her, then she will be in big trouble, so she must find a chance to get her back. But at that very moment, the two are attacked by bats. The guy immediately covers the girl and also tells her to be careful. When a flock flies by, the young man claims that they were bats, and the girl wonders what they are doing there. The young man claims that it seems the lady is afraid of bats, to which he replies that she is not afraid, and simply thought that these were mice. And doesn't that mean that they carry the plague like rats? The guy replies that even if they are similar, they are not the same thing. The lady replies that she knows, but adds in her thoughts that she is just curious about what bats are doing there for no reason. The guy says that this is actually not bad, because at least it means that there is air there, and it can ensure the survival of the animals, so they don't have to worry about hypoxia. He also strokes the girl's head and claims that a knight is always ready to serve a lady, and if she is afraid, she can hide behind his back. But at that very moment, the main character sees a card next to her and understands that this is her chance. She immediately pulls it out of her pocket, then runs away and screams that this card is hers. So, let him not come near, otherwise she will burn. The young man claims that in any case he has learned it by heart, so the lady can just take it for herself, but they are now in the same boat, so why take it away? The girl replies that she will tell her what if someone finds out that the card was stolen, and how can she explain it to her? At this time, someone shouts to the general and claims that they have problems. The man asks what happened, after which the servant replies that a child appeared in the west infected with the plague, and perhaps he has already infected others. The man screams that the military blockade is very strict and no one could break through to the western district, so how could this happen? The guy replies that he does not know, and all fruits, vegetables, and food are absolutely safe, and there were no strangers. But then he remembers that there was one person, and half a month ago, there was a 15 or 16-year-old boy who claimed to be a priest and knew a little about medicine. They saw that he was healthy because the church was short of manpower. The general cries out, "Have they all forgotten the ban of the Duke and the Prince? Then let them bring this man immediately." Well, the guy replies the state from the man suddenly disappeared about 3 days ago. The general orders to go for an artist who will paint a portrait of this boy and hang the portrait everywhere so that he must be caught as soon as possible. The man realizes that the teenager who was able to evade the army and go to the West End is definitely not simple, and could he be a spy sent from Hades? The main character at this time turns to her older brother and says that his accent does not sound like anyone from their empire, so she asks where he is from. The guy replies that it is a very remote small country, and after he came to this empire with his family, he accidentally separated from his parents and is still looking for them. The girl claims that she is actually looking for her mother too, and the guy asks if she is not a princess. The girl claims that her mother suddenly disappeared when she was a baby, and everyone said that she had deserted, but she doesn't believe it because her mother would never have left her alone. Her mother is also from a small country, but she doesn't remember where she is, and only vaguely remembers some strange words. The boy replies that it is not surprising that she does not look like Arthur's purebred. The girl then asks if the older brother is so amazing that he can notice even such things. She also asks if he is an ordinary resident, after which he is about to say something, but the girl interrupts him. And he tells the older brother to look because it seems they have found a way out, after which they go in there. And the young man understands that it seems that these are really words from the country where, in her opinion, he lives, her mother. However, this has nothing to do with the truth he wants to find. The lady is dusting the table at this time, and he asks what this square plate is for. the young man suggests putting a map there because suddenly it will work, after which the main character turns to him and tells him not to come near the young man, then says, "Okay," and asks if his little princess will now breathe a sigh of relief. The girl places the card on the table, and it begins to glow, after which the lady hears someone speaking to her. This voice tells her child that this is the only advice she can give her. The main character thinks that this sound is so sharp and unpleasant, and the guy asks if she is okay or a princess. The last words before the map fades are the truth about the plague already on the path they came from. After this, Anastasia falls to the floor, and the knight turns to the princess. And he tells her to wake up quickly because he can steal the card if she doesn't wake up. At this time, the girl only thinks that she is so tired, and the guy lifts her into his arms. And he claims that if the lady hears his voice, then let her try to wake up because he doesn't know what else is waiting for them there, and it's dangerous to fall asleep there. If she faints, then he can only take her back to the church and escape alone. After this, the main character only thanks her older brother and falls asleep. The guy then says, "Okay, and they've passed, so let her sleep a little. He'll take her when he finds everything he needs." When the lady lies down near the card, it begins to manifest itself a little. At this time, the girl sees a dream about her mother. In it, she addresses her and asks her mother to wait and not leave her. The woman then apologizes. And he claims that it's time for Mom to return to her country, and she should grow up next to her father and be a happy princess. When she grows up, she will be able to come to her mother, and she will always wait for her beloved daughter. A little while later, the main character jumps out of bed. Joshua addresses Her Highness, and he asks if she had a nightmare, to which the girl replies that she did and thinks that perhaps she did. The guy at this time says that Her Highness must be scared by the kidnapping, and the lady wonders where her knight is and what about the man who was with her. Joshua claims that Her Highness was in danger, and Elle as a knight will naturally be punished. And as for the man who was with her, he is now in the dungeon. The guy also thinks how it happened that he was caught. A little while ago, he was carrying the princess, and when leaving one of the doors, he met guards. He also said that it was not what they thought, but at that very moment, he was tied up. When the young man was put in a cage, he claimed that he really did nothing but simply helped. Now the guy just says how troublesome it is and how difficult it will be to escape from there. A little while later, the main character is already finishing her story about the guy asking if Her Highness thinks. The guy then asks if Her Highness thinks that the oracle is somehow connected with bats. The girl replies that it is just a guess, and she is not sure. The guy with blonde hair asks if the princess knows the identity of this person, to which the girl replies that she does not know, and Joshua suggests that Her Highness have a good rest because it is not important, and they will discuss everything later. He will submit a request for research on bats in the laboratory, and the main character thanks him for his concern. The guy then says that he might go, but then the girl pulls him by the sleeve, after which the guy turns to the princess and she tells Joshua to wait. She also asks if there are, in addition to the Kingdom of Hades, other countries who use magic. The girl also claims that she just asked because she suddenly thought about it. The main character thinks that he is from the people of Hades, so of course he will not tell her the truth. And the guy answers Her Highness that yes, her mother is from one such mysterious country. Anastasia asks if this is really true and wants to know if he will tell her what country her mother is from. The princess realizes that she has so few fragments of her memory related to her mother that she asked her father this question, but her father did not answer her, and the others either did not know anything or avoided looking at her as if she had mentioned something dirty. But she just wants to know what that red liquid is flowing in her. Joshua meanwhile apologizes to the princess. Well, he claims that he can't tell her. The girl asks why, and the guy replies that His Majesty gave him an order, and he can't tell the whole truth, so he's very sorry. The girl asks if it is because she is a different red liquid, and according to the belief of Arthur's kingdom, only a few kingdoms, and the empire's only son can marry their king. The country's king married into a cursed bloodline, and it was a betrayal of the gods and a disgrace to the family. The girl asks if her existence has brought shame on the royal family. Joshua tells Her Highness that this is not so. He also hugs the girl and tells her not to cry, because the lady is a princess of noble blood and an angel sent to the world by God. She took it from injustice because they do not have magic and are afraid of various demons and such as Hades, so they built a wall. His father told him that the wall was called prejudice, and they thought that the wall was isolating them from danger, but in reality they were just imprisoning themselves. He believes that Her Highness's mother lovingly awaited her birth into this world, and if the lady doubts her own existence, then she denies all her importance to her mother. The main character at this time thinks about her mother. The guy claims that her red liquid has nothing to do with it, and the lady is the most important gift that God gave her mother, and she is proof that she existed and loved the girl. The main character then wipes away her tears and thanks Joshua. She also claims that on the day she fainted, she heard the voice of the oracle. She did not have time to examine the things in that room, and maybe there are still some secrets left there, so the lady asks to help her convince the general because she wants to look at these things. The guy then asks if the lady wants to say that there is something else there, and a little while later they are already there. The man turns to Her Highness and asks if she said there were any other things there. And the girl looking at the cleaned room thinks how impudent this guy is because he didn't even leave anything for her. One of the servants answers that the general ordered to guard all levels, except for this secret path from which the princess was brought, and after that no one else entered there. The man asks if there is another entrance, and the lady answers that there shouldn't be. At least it's not on the map. The main character also turns to the general and asks if he has seen the map. After which one of the servants turns to General Yi and claims that they have caught bats, and the man says to give him the map. He also hands the girl a paper and claims that this blank card was found on the intruder, and he said that it belongs to the lady. At this time, the servant asks the general what they should do next with the bats, and the man says that they should take the mice to the laboratory and ask the Lord to examine them. Joshua at this time turns to Her Highness and asks if she sees anything special in this map. Anastasia replies that she does not, and thinks that it seems that they, like the books in the mother's palace, cannot see their contents, and this could be a guide to the Book of Prophecies. After which she claims that she thinks that if there are hidden passages, they can see them on the map. But after the oracle came, the contents on the map disappeared. The man then turns to the two and states that their safety is of the utmost importance, so he asks them to return to their quarters, and if there is any news, he will immediately report it. To which the two agree, and then move on, and the man thinks that this guy's personality is not simple, therefore it is necessary to ensure that the princess is careful with him. The girl at this time goes with the guy. Joshua claims that bats will not be studied so quickly, so he asks Her Highness to be careful and not go near that place. The girl replies that it's good and that the guy has been working a lot lately, to which he replies that this is what he should do. And in his thoughts, he adds that moreover, serving Her Highness is a great honor for him. A little while ago, someone was shouting, what a noble guy he is, because he is just a lousy help. With such a filthy lineage as his, he was originally unworthy of appearing before Her Highness. But not only did Her Highness not repel him, she began to defend him. From that moment on, he swore to himself to be loyal to Her Highness, and even if he wanted to use his body to research the vaccine in order to help Her Highness, he would not back down, and perhaps at least in this way he could get into her heart. Anastasia at this time claims that she suddenly remembered something, after which the lady turns to the knight and asks him to return, and also to ask the general for the keys to the prison cell, because she wants to free the knight, Howard. Joshua claims that the knight has already left and asks what she wanted to say. The girl replies that it is about her mother, and she knows that her father ordered her not to spread the word, but she promises that no one will find out about it. Joshua wants to say something, but when he sees the lady asking sweetly, he says, okay. The main character claims that he is the best. A little while later, they enter the room of a guy with red hair, after which the main character says that his detention is cancelled, but when the guy does not answer, the lady turns to him again. Joshua is thinking at this time how beautiful the lady is, and the guy with red hair gets down on his knees and asks Her Highness to forgive him for his negligence. The lady replies that everything is fine and suggests that he quickly get up, to which the boy agrees. Joshua thinks that it is sweet and how great it is to be able to guard Her Highness as a knight. It would be great if he could stand next to her too. A little while later, the girl is in the dungeon. She realizes that she doesn't know where this guy did all the things from the secret room. And when the girl looked at the map, she realized that it had changed. The key to another secret room was in that pile of things. So she needs to find a way to expose him. The lady finds the cage where this guy is sitting, after which she screams to her older brother that she has been looking for him for a long time, and they said that he stole things from a secret room in the church. She explained everything to them, but they said that they would only let the elder brother go if he returned the stolen things, otherwise they would not let him go earlier. The young man then asks if Her Highness the Princess can't just order, to which the girl replies that she is just a troubled princess and has no power, so he will have to give these things, otherwise nothing will save him from the general's interrogation. The young man says that this is how he understands that this little princess does not know how to take it all. After which he tells the lady to come closer, and he will tell her, but let her tell no one else. After which the main character approaches him and tells the guy that the matter is, that after which she says the word mantra, and a spell appears around the girl. The main character wonders what he did to her, and the guy tells her not to be afraid because it's just a little curse. The lady must tell them to let him go, otherwise she will not be able to get rid of the curse. A short time later, the general states that by walking a few feet forward, he can leave his post, so let him lift the curse of Her Highness's piss, and they will release him immediately. The red-haired guy screams at him to stop with his tracks or they will not spare him. Anastasia realizes that due to her carelessness, she was deceived by a child. At this time, the guy tells them not to be so nervous, because he will do everything now. After which the young man begins to cast a spell, but after it, an explosion occurs. Soldiers after him right away, and Joshua tells the princess not to worry, because he will try to find a way to get rid of the curse. The main character at this time understands that she still thinks that he is a good person. And the young man with red hair notices a note on the ground and asks what it is. It says on it that this is a tribute to the Princess of Love, and the guy screams that maybe this is a way to remove the curse, so let Her Highness look. The main character wonders if this is really for her, after which she unfolds the note and it says that the guy thanks Her Highness for risking her life and for saving him. As for the curse, he asks to raise his head high and touch it. The main character wonders if she really needs to touch her head and then does so. But at that very moment, a wreath appears on her head, and the girl is surprised. A little while later, she is already in her bed, and she screams that she hates this guy because he dared to make fun of her like that. The girl also thinks that this guy must be an unusual person, because his mind is so deep that he does not look like a child at all, and maybe he, like her, was reborn. At this time, someone knocks on Her Highness's door and shouts that she has an urgent letter. It turns out to be a knight, and he claims that he just received a letter from the front from His Highness at night and asks to see it. The main character thinks that her brother was so worried and maybe something happened. After which she sees how the sheet says that the situation on the front line remains tense, and he asks to stop the epidemic as soon as possible in order to deliver reinforcements in time. After this, the main character thinks that this kingdom did start everything in advance. The girl also wonders if their kingdom was so weak due to the epidemic that the enemy wanted to take the opportunity to make a quick decision. The girl also claims that it is too late to wait for the results of the experiment, and they can only believe that the assumption is correct. So let them immediately ask everyone to bring bats and disinfect them, and this time she will personally supervise it. At this time she is at the advanced station of Ada. One man claims that it is too reckless to develop so quickly. If the epidemic is temporarily brought under control, they will most likely face a counterattack. The guy asks if the epidemic is under control and confirms it is. That according to the intelligence services in the epidemic zone, there are only an 8-year-old princess, an old duke who used to control the epidemic. He is about to see God and his son of mixed races, also a teenager. So who will control this epidemic? But the man claims that it is said that the princess recently went personally to the epidemic area to lead prevention efforts, and apparently she still has some influence. Laren asks if she has personally been to the epidemic zone, and if this is not normal. Now that the princess is personally in the epidemic zone, he suggests finding a way to make the civilians greet her. After all, this is such a delightful scene, and let the guy just think about it. At this time, Joshua is working in the lab. He understands that Her Highness has personally led the security to clear the area of bats, and he must do everything for her to reveal the secrets of the bats as soon as possible. Or there is another way, after which the young man takes a scalpel and cuts the skin with it. The doctor immediately calls out to him, but Joshua claims that he leaves the rest of the research to Earl. After he is given the virus, let him immediately isolate it and take a sample of the red liquid to make a vaccine when he recovers, because this is the fastest way to deal with the epidemic. The man screams that no way, and it is too risky. However, the guy claims that Earl knows that he won't be able to convince him otherwise, so he asks him to do as he says. The man replies that he knows the main character is in the square at this time and asks to listen to her. She claims that she received a message from God last night, and although she cannot be completely sure bats are the source of the epidemic, so she hopes that everyone will actively cooperate with the security to get rid of the bats and control the spread of the epidemic. Some of them ask if this will help eliminate the epidemic, and if this is God's will, then maybe it really will help. But in any case, there is no better way now, and everyone can try to help. The main character claims that in any case there is no better way now and everyone can try to help. Then someone argues that after all, the lady is a princess, and it is not easy for her to lose her royal face. She feels like a trustworthy person. But then someone from the crowd cries out that she is lying and asks how God could give his message to the princess of misfortune. Then one lady says that this is true because since the princess came, the epidemic has intensified, and she is the daughter of fate. So how could the gods give her their message? And she herself said that she cannot be completely sure. At this time, the main character asks to listen to her, but this man screams again that the royal family does not love her at all and does not trust her. He also thinks that the lady with her actions deceived others, provoking them to devilish revenge, and also plunged them all into a passionate sleep. Then someone says that it turns out the lady wants to use them for experiments, and if she does, she can exchange them for the favor of His Majesty. The girl then screams that this is not so, and her knight covers her. At this time, this man screams, how could the girl lie to them? And also screams that they should drive her away. Then one of the people asks if her knight still holds his ball, and if he wants to do something with them. Elle says that, of course, because he wants to put them into eternal sleep and they will not become victims of their conspiracy. At this time, someone cries out for Her Highness to be protected, and the knights hold back the crowd. But they just throw food and scream for the girl to get out of there, and until she leaves there, the plague will not subside. The main character at this time thinks what to do now. At this time in the theater station, the prince thinks that, according to the informant, Hades has already deployed the army, but the guy thinks why he hasn't gone on the offensive and what he's waiting for. It seems to him that something has happened, and he has a bad feeling. At this time, someone else approaches His Highness and claims that a letter has arrived from Prince Asa of Hades. After which the guy takes this letter in his hands, but it says that he is worried that they have become too bored while waiting for the war. So he specially sent a gift to his younger sister, and she went to the civilian areas to personally monitor the epidemic on his behalf. Now the angry citizens will take her on. The blonde is thinking about Anastasia at this time, and the knight asks if this is bad news, but when His Highness begins to fall off his feet, the brunette immediately turns to him and says that he will call a doctor, to which the guy replies that it is not necessary. The prince tells him to simply bring the medicine and not to spread the news of this incident to the others, so that the army does not give up its positions. Also let him prepare paper and a pen because he wants to write to Anastasia and his father. At this time, people scream for the princess to be driven away and let the princess take away their misfortunes, his curse, and fails. The guy with red hair at this time tells Her Highness to hide, and the girl pays attention to his face and asks if everything is okay. The lady's bracelet starts to glow at this time. At this time, another guy comes there. He also asks the bird if he is serious, if the little girl is not worried, and if he is not lying, after which one of the residents notices a dove in the sky and wonders where it came from. Another claims that it has been a long time since pigeons have been seen in the affected area. At this time, the main character is wondering if this is another message from God, but at that very moment, she notices someone in the sky. This guy tells foolish mortals that God has shown them the way and wonders why they don't listen to him. One of the men cries out that this is the sun god, and is this really the high priest of the sun kingdom? Someone else claims that only the high priest can perform such a miracle. The guy with red hair claims that this can't be, and that he turned out to be the high priest. The main character wonders how he got there, and if it was his magic. The man who is spreading the gossip understands that this is not good, and how could the priest appear there at such a time? At this time, people cry out with a request to the high priest to show them the way, and the guy claims that God's will has come to Princess Anastasia, and they just need to follow it. People immediately scream that they will follow the sign of the high priest, and the main character wonders if this guy really is the high priest and came there to help her. But with such kindness, why didn't he tell about what was hidden in the church? And did he really need these things to find some clues? The man who was spreading the rumors is running down the alley at this time and thinks that this is bad. After all, things are not going as he expected, and he also thinks about what he should do. Well, at that very moment, a dove flies in front of him, and when the man looks forward, then he sees a guy and asks if this is the same high priest. The young man claims that it is bad to deliberately set peaceful residents against each other for no reason. When the guy starts to approach the attacker, the latter tells him not to come closer. Well, the young man just uses his magic, after which the man grabs his neck, and the guy claims that his family is pure, so let him shut up forever. The main character, Vata, returns to the church. She thanks the knight for his hard work today, and he suggests that he have a good rest today, to which he agrees. At that very moment, someone cries out to Her Highness. It turns out to be a doctor, and he claims that he needs to tell her about an emergency. Joshua was infected with the plague and fell into a coma due to a high fever. The young man at this time lies in bed and coughs. He understands that he cannot fall into eternal sleep, because if he does not get better, then no one will tell about Her Highness's mother, and if only she would come to him. At that very moment, the boy hears someone speaking to him and realizes that it is the princess. At this time, the girl asks how he feels because Count Clovis said that everything is not very good. Joshua replies that he is fine, and the red liquid of Hades in his body will definitely cure him. And besides, he still has something he hasn't told her. The girl claims that he will tell her everything when he gets better. After which, the young man turns to Her Highness and claims that they have already spoken about this before. The main character thinks, what is he talking about? Is he really talking about her mother? But why does he want to tell you this so much? Is his condition really that serious? But then the lady thinks no, and he's still the child if he is really going to fall into eternal sleep. How can he be so calm? There must be this sudden desire to say. Anastasia at this time says that the Count should continue the study of bats after he returns and arrange for someone to take over Joshua's work. The knight is also tired during the day, so let him return and rest. And she will look after Joshua. The guy at this time thinks, what does this mean? Am I really telling her something that he shouldn't hear from their conversation? After which the two agree and leave. The main character asks Joshua if he really wants to talk about her mother, to which the guy replies that he does. And they say that one night her mother suddenly appeared in the palace, and the palace security is very strict. Also, no one knows how she appeared. When His Majesty saw her, she was standing in the rose garden and was behaving very calmly. At first, His Majesty was very angry and arrested her as an unknown person, but soon found out that she was a witch. Joshua claims that he does not know why His Majesty suddenly announced that he would marry her, and everyone objected, but he arranged the wedding. He also believes that His Majesty loved the lady's mother. But when Joshua turns to the princess again, he sees that she has already fallen asleep. The guy understands that she is very tired and tells Her Highness to sleep peacefully. If he can survive, he will investigate the case of her mother, so the post lady will leave it to him. After the bats were destroyed, the epidemic did not develop anymore, and 2 days passed from that moment. The guy looking at his temperature says that he has 367 degrees. He also turns to Her Highness and says that his temperature has dropped. The girl asks if it is true, after which she happily says that Joshua has recovered. The doctor claims that he will immediately take the red liquid to develop a vaccine. A little while later, the main character is in her room and realizes that the development of the vaccine is going well, but she has never been to the other secret room in the church. The girl also thinks when this guy will appear again, because they must find a way to catch him and question him carefully. At this time, a knight enters the room and addresses Her Highness. He claims that the Count said that the vaccine is almost ready and will be available in a few days. In addition, His Highness sent an urgent letter. The main character then takes it and says that she will look at it. Well, when the guy hands over this letter, he touches the lady's finger and gets a little embarrassed. The girl then claims that her brother said that the news that she was trapped in a civilian area reached Asa, and he suspects that there is someone around her. Yell claims that then it is necessary to find out who he is as soon as possible. Otherwise, there may be problems with the vaccine too. Anastasia replies that she doesn't know many people and that these people must often appear nearby. So Howard will publish news tomorrow saying that she is too tired and a little sick, and it could also be life-threatening. The girl claims that she can't tell the truth to anyone except him, and if the spy finds out that she is seriously ill, he will definitely try to tell Asa about it, and they can watch this spy in secret. The guy replies that yes, he will ensure Her Highness's safety and also swears that he will catch the spy. A little while later, the emperor asks why this happened, and looking at the letter from the prince which states that Asa built the spies of Anastasia, he says to get the horses ready because he is leaving for the epidemic zone in the evening. The butler tells His Highness that this is impossible because he really decided to leave the palace and go to the epidemic zone, and he is also afraid that chaos will break out among the citizens. He also asks him to think about it again, but the man thinks that his little Anastasia, how will she cope with all this, and if something bad happens, then he won't be able to stand it at all. The man says that they should prepare the horses immediately because they must keep everything a secret, and no one should find out about it. A little while later, the main character is in bed and realizes that the news of her illness spread in one day, and no one really did anything. Maybe the spy suspected something. But the girl thinks that it is impossible, except for her nights, no one else knew that she was pretending to be sick. At this time, someone else sneaks into the ladies' room and says that it turns out she was pretending to be sick. The main character turns around and asks who it is, after which she sees this guy. The young man smiles and claims that he heard that the lady is sick and barely alive, and he also wanted to go in and see how scary she is becoming. Well, it turns out everything is fine. The main character wonders if her brother has come to visit her. The guy tells her to consider something, the window most likely he is there to find what he lost last time, and he is very angry. The girl tells him not to be angry because she had a reason to pretend to be sick, but the young man asks what that reason was. The lady claims that because the prince sent her a letter in which he said that there was a spy near her, she pretended to be ill in order to capture him. The guy understands that this girl is unusual and she is still small but at the same time very smart, and maybe he should show her the material in the secret room because maybe she will help him find what he could not find. The guy then says that it's good, and he sees that the lady is being honest with him, and he also has a way of showing her the material in the church. Anastasia asks if this is true, but at that very moment someone says that he has important news for His Majesty. The guy claims that it seems like it's time for him to go, but when the main character wants to say something else, he just disappears. The girl thinks that he is really strange because she hasn't finished speaking yet. A little while later, the red-haired guy claims that he has done his research. Knight Balud left at midnight and still hasn't returned. The girl says that's good and tells the other guards to be ordered to hide because they will catch him as soon as he returns. A little while later, they see this guy walking, after which the girl screams for him to be caught. The knights immediately take out their guns and shout for him to stop. The guy then asks Her Highness what she is doing, and the main character wonders if he doesn't convey information to another kingdom and let him say who orders him. The guy then says how strange it is that an 8-year-old kid exposed him, but then he bites the poison and claims that luckily she shouldn't ask him because he doesn't know anything. Elle screams to be caught faster. This guy wants to commit suicide, but at that very moment he falls to the floor and the main character tells them to quickly check how he is. When the knight approaches this guy, he claims that he has already fallen into eternal sleep. The guy also claims that he kept poison in his mouth and used it in case it was discovered. The girl asks if he was really that desperate. She also thinks that he does have a wife and daughter, but he was determined to go into eternal sleep, so she is afraid that someone was guiding him, and his power was so great that he could not resist her. The main character wonders who it could be, but at that very moment, Joshua turns to Her Highness. He asks if she is okay, because he heard that the lady personally caught a spy, and he was worried that she might get into a dangerous situation. The girl replies that everything is fine because she has already solved this problem, but she also asks how his illness is, and if the guy is better. Joshua replies that he actually recovered in 2 days, but simply stayed in the lab for observation, so that work on the vaccine continued successfully. The main character asks if he is talking about success, to which the guy replies that yes, the doctor claims that tonight he is going to reserve several vaccines and tomorrow morning they can give them to the citizens. The main character then says that Joshua is such a great guy and she is so lucky that she has him this time. The guy then gets a little embarrassed and claims that he is doing what he can. And let the lady have a rest, and tomorrow they will talk about how to stop the epidemic with a vaccine. The main character says that he should also have a good rest. The knight watching all this wonders if their relationship has always been so good. A little while later, the boy guards the princess while she sleeps. A little while later, he also hears someone walking and screaming who is there, but when this person takes off his hood, that guy is surprised because he sees His Majesty in front of him. The young man is also interested in how this can be, and the blonde tells the guy not to make noise, otherwise he will be Anastasia, after which he will agree. At this time, the main character is sleeping peacefully in bed, and the emperor realizes that she seems to have lost weight. The girl must have suffered a lot, but despite her suffering, she never even complained. That's why she looks so much like her mother, and when a man wants to stroke a girl's head, he stops. And she also thinks that he must have gone crazy because he left the palace again for her. The man also thinks that he cannot forgive Amanda, and even if his daughter is on his side, he will never forgive her. At this time in the Ida camp, a guy with blonde hair says that there is good news, because this child in the epidemic zone is about to fall into eternal sleep, and Adelaide will be left alone on the front line. At the moment, the epidemic is just spreading, and people are very confused, so there is a high probability that they will start an attack soon. His interlocutor claims that they need to send their vanguards on reconnaissance and better warn all the troops, but the guy replies that there is no need for this because it is waking a sleeping dog, and this is a rare opportunity to attack suddenly. The young man also claims that everything is decided because he will not allow his beautiful beast to escape from him. At this time, the main character asks if they have prepared enough vaccine, to which the nurse answers, "Her Highness, that yes, there are only 150 and the same number of people are in the city today. Joshua will continue producing the vaccine." The main character then says that it's good, and suggests getting to work, but the red-haired youth then tells Her Highness that he has something to tell her. His Majesty came to see her early yesterday, and in any case he did not allow him to wake the lady. He just stayed in her room for a while, and then left, and His Majesty asked him about the spy matter and the vaccine, and then returned back to the palace. The main character then asks if her father was there. The girl also thinks what kind of chaotic time is this, because her father left the palace and came to the infected zone. So is it because of Togosh that he is worried about her? But then the lady thinks that it is impossible, because he never cared about her or even looked at her. Probably it was about the intense war and where her brother is now, so he just came to push the progress in controlling the epidemic, and that must be it. The lady claims that her father is worried about the epidemic situation and that they should get it under control faster, after which she suggests starting. A little while later, they are already approaching the church. One of the people says that this princess has come again, and lately they have only been doing what they were doing was putting bats into eternal sleep by listening to her, but the epidemic has not diminished at all, and now what will she tell them? Else says that maybe she misinterpreted God's message, but she is just a child. The main character at this time shows a test tube and asks everyone to listen to her because in her hands is a vaccine that was invented by the Count. Using a simple silver knife, you need to cut the skin and then apply the vaccine to the wound. The antibodies will immediately get into the red liquid and will help in the future. One of the people asks what she just told her should they really put the vaccine into the body, but they might not survive if they do that. The man says that the previous Count searched but failed and Clovis is just his assistant, so how could he invent the vaccine so quickly? The guy with red hair asks them to trust the princess because this is the only way they can control the epidemic. Well then, one of them claims that by a lucky chance he is still alive and will not use it. Someone else claims that he will definitely go into eternal sleep if he uses it, and he wonders if the people from the palace have accepted it yet. Another guy wonders if the lady's memory is really that bad, since she even dared to go out in front of these citizens. All the uneducated people gathered, will they really believe what she's offering them? However, he should not appear right now, and if suddenly the lady cannot control the situation, then he will help her, and then he will have an advantage. The main character then thinks that they definitely won't believe her words, so the lady says that in order to make everyone believe she will be the first one to receive this vaccination. Then one of the people asks if the lady really said that she would get this vaccine, and if she can get it, then that means the vaccine really works. Else claims that this princess is really unusual. The high priest at this time wonders if the lady has gone crazy. After all, this vaccine was made very quickly, so it doesn't guarantee that there won't be problems, but it's a way to shut their mouths. And does this girl really believe in the vaccine? At this time, the main character approaches the nurse and asks her to give her an injection immediately. The knight tells Her Highness that she does not need to do this and he will be first, but the girl says that he will be after her, and this is an order, after which the nurse is going to give her a vaccination, and the knight watching this thinks whether she is really so determined. At this time, the nurse makes an incision, after which she pours out the vaccine, and when she wraps the lady's hand, the main character says that they see everything. And she also risked her life so that they could be sure that the vaccine was safe, so she asks them to cooperate with their team because Arthur's kingdom will thank them all for their choice. One of them claims that the lady made the vaccine right in front of them, and maybe it really is completely safe. Someone else says that otherwise the princess would not have freed her life. After which they all start raising their hands, and one of them says that he will be a member of their team. The other says that he will too. The young man watching all this thinks that the lady is great, and she is as brave as he thought. Under Anastasia's leadership, vaccination was quickly rolled out, and the epidemic began to slowly recede. She was brought completely under control, and at the same time the prince patiently awaited reinforcements and provisions. His Majesty in the interview room states that he is proposing full vaccination and also asks if anyone has any comments. One of the people then turns to His Majesty and claims that he thinks one should act carefully because the epidemic zone has spread to other places, so vaccination is a simple waste of time. Besides, the people on the plane would absolutely not agree to act as a patient, and he was afraid that this would lead to unrest. Then His Majesty claims that he himself is being vaccinated, while one of the people screams that this is absolutely impossible because the vaccine can be dangerous and he should not. Someone else tells His Majesty that the epidemic is now under control, so he shouldn't do this. The man claims that this vaccine will help with the epidemic, and besides, the 8-year-old girl was able to withstand all this, so he asks what the problem is. After the aristocrats do not know what to answer, the man shouts that they will do it immediately. The Empress then asks what her brother just said and whether the situation on the front line is under control. The man replies that His Majesty also wants to issue a decree to vaccinate the entire country, and he is afraid that Ace's plans will be ruined. The woman then says okay and let him go, and also immediately report if something happens. The man replies that he obeys, and when he leaves, then the Empress tells Ariana to come to her. The woman tells the maid to immediately convey this news to Asu, agrees to something. At this time, someone informs Her Highness that everything is prepared, and tomorrow they can leave the epidemic zone and also return to the royal capital. And after that, people order something else to the knight and he leaves. When he does so, the lady sits down on the sofa and understands that tomorrow she is leaving. She will also leave the secret room, and today will be her last chance to get there, but the lady is wondering how this man got there. At this time, the guy appears near her ear and asks if the little princess is really thinking about something. And also, does she really think about him? The main character is surprised by this and wonders if she should take it away, and also understands that he has helped her several times recently, and this guy is always stalking her. The lady also wonders why he came there and whether something really happened. The guy at this time understands that up to this point he saved her many times, but she still worries about him, and therefore his identity is most likely not recognized. And in addition, he has some things to do, and he does not want to argue with her at all as well as create any problems. The young man wonders if the lady said she wanted to return the materials in the secret room, so he suggests going and checking them. The girl asks if he is really offering her to do this and thinks if he is really so kind, although she doesn't know what he has in mind, but she will agree to his offer. He definitely won't hurt her, so the lady wants to investigate everything she needs. A little while later, they are already in this room and the girl understands that everything is in place. She also claims that she told the Count to stop the investigation so he could be sure that no one would be there. The guy then thanks her and claims that he will leave the lady. The main character says that it is good and thinks that after he leaves she can look for another secret room, and she does not think that she can easily fool him now. After which the girl decides to proceed. The main character looks at all this and then opens the secret room and also asks if she is really there. Well, then the lady notices how she starts to feel dizzy and realizes that she has that feeling again, and she hopes that the dizziness will pass. But at that very moment the lady falls and the guy immediately screams at her. The main character at this time sees her mother and she asks if it was so hard for her daughter. The blonde asks if it is her mother and she replies that yes, and she is there to bring the guidance of the light. The lady needs to know the truth, which is related to the lost race, so let her just find this information and she will know the direction. And also let Anastasia remember that in the distant birch forest, this race disappeared forbidden abilities in the mortal world, as well as the distant family of her mother.